A poor girl stops on the road to help a driver with a flat tire, unaware that he's a billionaire in disguise, and this meeting changes their lives forever. Hello, viewer. Thanks for joining us. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments, along with the city you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. Jennifer Williams wiped the fog from the inside of her windshield, peering through the sheets of late autumn rain that pounded Charleston's quiet streets. Her old Chevrolet rattled with each pothole, its headlights illuminating the endless downpour. She was exhausted. 13 hours on her feet at the hospital had taken their toll. A faint tune from the radio filled the silence, offering a gentle, comforting background to her tired thoughts. Yet in spite of her weariness, Jennifer found her mind restless. Bills were piling up, and her savings had nearly evaporated since her father passed away. He had left behind not just memories, but also a mountain of debt from his prolonged illness. She had tried everything to stay afloat, extra shifts, skipping meals, paying only the most pressing expenses. At 30, she should have been building a future. Instead, she was barely surviving, clinging to the salary of a devoted nurse who could hardly pay the rent for her modest apartment. Still, none of that ever discouraged her from her volunteer work in the pediatric oncology ward. The bright smiles of children undergoing cancer treatment gave her a sense of purpose she couldn't find elsewhere. She was known among the hospital staff for her boundless compassion, even if it seemed reckless at times. As her father used to say, compassion is always worth the risk. Tonight, that risk would take shape once again. Through the blur of rain, she spotted a solitary vehicle pulled over to the side of the road, its hazard lights blinking. For a heartbeat, Jennifer hesitated. Nighttime, a deserted stretch of highway, and the potential dangers of approaching strangers. A wave of caution washed over her, but just as quickly, the instinct to help overrode her fears. With a sigh, she signaled and slowly steered onto the shoulder behind the stranded car. She grabbed her flashlight, pulled on the hood of her thin jacket, and stepped out into the downpour. The cold rain plastered her hair against her cheeks, and the scent of wet asphalt reminded her of the nights spent driving her father home from the hospital. She approached cautiously, shining the light around to see if the driver was in distress. That was when she noticed him, a man in his late 30s, soaked to the bone, crouched by a flat tire. "Everything all right, sir?" she called over the roar of rain. He stood up and tugged down the brim of his baseball cap, as if embarrassed to be caught struggling with the tire iron. In a deep, quiet voice, he answered, "I'm fine, thank you. The tire's just stuck." Jennifer stepped closer, heart pounding from the chill and her own nerves. Something about his voice sounded polite, yet slightly guarded. "I can give you a hand," she offered. The man hesitated. "I don't want to trouble you." Her smile was genuine, even if her teeth chattered a bit. "It's not trouble. I'm a nurse. Helping people is in my job description. Besides," she added, adjusting her hood, "you look like you've been out here a while." He exhaled, rainwater dripping from the brim of his cap. "I appreciate it, but you're soaked. You should get back in your car." Yet Jennifer was already kneeling beside the flat tire, flashlight in hand. She quickly discovered the culprit, a stubborn lug nut that refused to budge. "I've got a tire iron in my trunk. Let me grab it." She darted back to her Chevrolet, rummaging through the clutter in the trunk. Her car was far from modern, but at least she kept a decent set of tools. When she returned, the man observed her carefully. "I really can manage," he insisted, his tone softer now, tinged with gratitude. Ignoring his protest, Jennifer slipped off her uniform jacket and laid it on the ground so she wouldn't ruin her scrubs. "This might be the only uniform I've got that's not at the laundry," she joked, her breath visible in the cold night air. A half smile formed on the man's face, a gesture that seemed foreign to him, like he wasn't used to expressing amusement. Between the two of them, the tire was quickly swapped out for the spare. Though her fingers trembled with the chill, Jennifer forced a cheerful tone. "All set, at least enough to get you somewhere warm." He cleared his throat, as if searching for a response. "I can't thank you enough, Miss Jennifer," she supplied, standing and pushing drenched strands of hair away from her eyes. He hesitated again before extending a hand. "Nathan," he said quietly. She shook his hand, noticing the calluses on his palm. The handshake was firm but reserved. There was something in his eyes, relief, gratitude, and perhaps a trace of curiosity. She wondered if he, too, sensed the strangeness of this encounter. The hum of passing cars and the pounding rain created a cocoon around them, isolating their small act of solidarity in an otherwise indifferent night. "Drive safe," Jennifer said, returning to her car. "And if that spare gives you trouble, any garage in Charleston should be able to help." Nathan's voice followed her as she opened her car door. "Thank you again. You saved me tonight." Jennifer only nodded, climbing inside and starting the engine, her defroster whirred feebly, fogging up the windshield once more. Before she pulled back onto the road, she glanced in her rearview mirror. Nathan stood watching her taillights vanish into the storm, his figure illuminated by the flickering hazard lights. She couldn't discern his expression, but she felt a pang of concern, a silent hope that he would be all right. As she drove away, the rain continued its relentless chorus, and Jennifer couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was more than just a roadside favor. Little did she know how profoundly it would alter the course of her life, and his. The next morning brought a glimmer of sunshine to Charleston, though puddles still decorated the streets. At the hospital, Jennifer hurried down a corridor, balancing a tray filled with medication cups and syringes. Her shift had started at dawn, and she was eager to check on the pediatric oncology ward, a place she considered her second home. Every young face there reminded her of how fleeting life could be and why empathy was worth every sacrifice. Sarah Miller, a fellow nurse in her late 20s, approached with a light tap on Jennifer's shoulder. "Hey, you look exhausted," she said, her voice tinged with concern. "Did you even sleep last night?" "Barely," Jennifer admitted, recalling the events on the road. She told Sarah about helping a stranger with a flat tire in the pouring rain. "I still feel the chill in my bones," she added with a quick smile. Sarah raised an eyebrow. "That's not safe, you know." "Stopping at night, in that weather, for a complete stranger?" Jennifer shrugged. "I had to. He was all alone. It didn't feel right to drive past without at least checking if he was okay." Before Sarah could comment further, a call over the intercom summoned Jennifer to the hospital director's office. Dr. Harold Peterson, a tall man of 55 with graying temples, greeted her with a thoughtful nod. "Jennifer, come in." "Shut the door, please." She did as asked, curiosity flickering in her eyes. He gestured for her to sit. "I'll be brief. We're facing some serious budget cuts, and the pediatric oncology program is at risk." He let the words settle. "I know how much this ward means to you. It means a lot to me too, but the numbers aren't adding up." Jennifer's chest tightened. "Budget cuts? So soon? But we just reorganized the ward last quarter." Dr. Peterson leaned forward, elbows on his desk. "I'm afraid it's more severe this time. We might have to scale back certain therapies, maybe even let some staff go if we can't find additional funding. I wanted you to hear it from me first." A wave of desperation washed over her. Her father's face flashed through her mind, the nights he had spent in a small, underfunded clinic, praying for some miracle that never came. She remembered how helpless she felt. This ward was her chance to ensure no one else had to endure that kind of powerless grief. I understand," she managed, voice trembling. Dr. Peterson exhaled, sympathy evident in his expression. I know you'll do whatever you can for these kids, Jennifer. If we could find a new sponsor or donor, maybe. She nodded, though deep down she didn't know where to start. I won't let this program go without a fight. When she left his office, the fluorescent lights felt uncomfortably bright. Sarah approached, concern painted on her face. What's wrong? Budget cuts, Jennifer whispered, her throat tight. They might cut back on the children's chemo sessions or experimental treatments. It's not fair. Sarah pursed her lips. That's terrible. Is there anything we can do? Jennifer tried to muster a shrug, but her eyes betrayed her mounting distress. We can look for donors, but big donations are rare. This could mean losing everything we've built for these kids. They returned to their duties, but the rest of the day felt like a haze. Between giving medication, checking vitals, and comforting frightened parents, Jennifer's thoughts kept wandering back to that half-formed notion. They needed funds, and they needed them fast. She would have to get creative, reach out to the community, maybe organize a fundraiser. Yet she also knew that such tasks took time the hospital might not have. Later, as dusk settled over Charleston, Jennifer swung by the small diner near the hospital to grab coffee for the overnight shift. The neon sign buzzed overhead while she waited at the counter. Just as the waitress handed her a paper cup, she felt someone's gaze. She turned to see a vaguely familiar figure sitting in one of the booths. It was him, Nathan, the man from last night. His clothes were dry and casual, but he wore the same well-worn baseball cap. Surprise flickered across his face. Though he tried to mask it with a faint nod of recognition, Jennifer hesitated, coffee cup in hand, unsure whether to approach. Finally, curiosity got the better of her, and she walked over. Nathan, right? His gaze softened. Yes. Jennifer, wasn't it? She nodded, shifting from one foot to the other. Glad to see you made it safely. Is your car all right? Everything's fine, thanks to your roadside rescue, he said, offering a slight smile. I'm actually just passing through Charleston for a few days. Thought I'd grab a bite. A moment of awkward silence followed. Jennifer's mind drifted to the dire hospital situation. She couldn't fathom how to ask a complete stranger for help, and the thought seemed absurd. Instead, she forced a polite smile. Well, have a good night. It was nice running into you again. She left him there, a swirl of unspoken questions filling the space between them. As Jennifer exited the diner into the cool night air, she found herself thinking that this chance meeting felt like more than coincidence. But with the weight of the hospital's financial crisis pressing on her, she pushed that notion aside. For now, she had more pressing worries than a mysterious stranger she'd rescued in the rain. By 7 o'clock the following morning, the hospital corridors were awake with the bustle of the day shift. The fluorescent lighting, scuffed floor tiles, and the faint aroma of antiseptic were all too familiar to Jennifer. She walked briskly toward the pediatric oncology ward, an area bursting with bright murals and children's artwork. The contrast between the ward's colorful decor and the severity of cancer treatments never ceased to unsettle her. Sarah, still looking fatigued from her own shift, handed over some patient charts. We have 2 new admissions today, a 7-year-old with leukemia and a 9-year-old who just transferred from upstate. Both are stable, but they'll need close monitoring. Jennifer thanked her, scanning the files. She felt a pang in her chest, remembering how much each new case represented not just a medical challenge, but a family's painful ordeal. Setting the charts aside, she offered Sarah a small, reassuring grin. We'll do our best to make them comfortable. Moments later, Dr. Harold Peterson, appearing slightly harried, approached them. Jennifer, a word. He gestured her aside. His brow furrowed. He spoke in hushed tones. I met with the board again this morning. If we don't secure additional funding within the next few weeks, we're going to start making cuts. I hate this as much as you do. Jennifer swallowed hard, her voice subdued. I'll try to find solutions. Maybe I can arrange a fundraiser or talk to some local businesses. He gave a tight nod. Any assistance would help. We're already behind on a few payments to our suppliers, and if we can't negotiate soon, the oncology program might be scaled back. The weight of it all felt crushing. As Dr. Peterson walked away, she noticed a group of children huddled around a nurse, listening intently to a storybook, their faces lit up in interest. That was what was at stake, the well-being of these kids, their chance for a fighting shot at life. Determined to clear her head, Jennifer headed to the small break room. She tried calling a couple of local businesses for sponsorship leads, but the early hour meant her calls went straight to voicemail. A flash of the evening before came to mind, her unexpected encounter with Nathan at the diner. She dismissed the thought almost immediately. There was no logical reason to link him with her current crisis, aside from the fleeting daydream of a benevolent stranger riding to the rescue. Real life seldom worked that way. Soon enough, Jennifer found herself bouncing between patient rooms, adjusting IVs, administering medications, and offering gentle words of encouragement to anxious parents. Around midday, she reached the room of a boy named Christopher, a 6-year-old with leukemia who was waiting for his next round of chemo. His mother sat by his bed, clutching the boy's tiny hand. Seeing the worry in the woman's eyes, Jennifer knelt beside them, speaking in a soft tone. "Hey, buddy. You doing okay?" Christopher nodded bravely. "My tummy hurts sometimes." His mother cleared her throat. "Is there any way to get more advanced medication? We heard of a new trial drug, but it's not covered by insurance." Jennifer's stomach clenched. "We're trying our best to provide the latest treatments," she offered gently. "Sometimes it's a matter of funding and approvals, but we're fighting for it." Fighting for it. Those words rang hollow in her mind. She wanted to do more than offer small reassurances. After all, Christopher's life and countless others were on the line. That sense of urgency fueled her determination. She left the room and found Sarah at the nurse's station. "I'm going to see if Dr. Peterson is free to discuss a fundraiser plan," Jennifer said. "We can't just wait for a miracle." Sarah's gaze flickered with concern. "You're taking on a lot." "Are you sure you're up for it?" Jennifer forced a determined nod. "If we don't try, we fail by default." Before heading to Dr. Peterson's office, she checked her phone. No new calls, no new messages. She sighed, feeling the tightness in her chest return. So many children needed help right now, and time was running out. Yet behind her worry, a spark of defiance glowed. She recalled how she'd managed to fix a flat tire in the pouring rain without flinching. Maybe that same resolve could guide her here. The day's responsibilities weighed heavily on her shoulders, but she refused to be crushed by them. Gripping her notes on potential fundraising ideas, Jennifer marched toward Dr. Peterson's office. She didn't have all the answers, but if there was a chance to rally community support, she would do it. When she thought of Christopher's hopeful eyes and the smile he gave her despite everything, she knew giving up wasn't an option. They deserved her best effort, and she intended to give it. Late that afternoon, the sky had dimmed to a dull grey, and a light drizzle replaced the previous night's torrential downpour. Jennifer left the hospital with a sense of urgency buzzing under her skin. Despite her exhaustion, she knew she couldn't let the evening go to waste. Perhaps she could draft a sponsorship letter or ask around for local donors. Every minute felt crucial now. Outside the hospital's main entrance, she spotted a familiar figure beneath an umbrella, the elderly volunteer, Dorothy "Dottie" Evans, who had been helping in the pediatric ward for years. Her hair was a cloud of silver curls, and she stood greeting passers-by with her usual warmth. Jennifer approached, offering a weary smile. "Heading home, Dottie?" The older woman shook her head. "I've still got some crocheted blankets to deliver to the little ones. Their parents love them, keeps the kids warm and gives them something handmade to hold on to, but I'll be leaving soon." A flicker of guilt crossed Jennifer's mind. She'd been so consumed by her own anxiety, she'd almost forgotten how many volunteers poured their hearts into the ward. "I heard about your blankets. Thank you for that. The kids adore them." Dottie's eyes sparkled. "I only wish I could do more. I know about the financial trouble brewing. If there's any way I can help beyond crocheting, I'm willing." Jennifer gently touched Dottie's arm. "Thank you. I'm trying to rally support. Once I figure out a plan, I might ask for your help spreading the word." Dottie nodded. "You just let me know, dear. And remember, sometimes you have to look in unlikely places for a miracle." She gave Jennifer's hand a squeeze and headed inside, her umbrella bobbing with each step. Jennifer pondered those words as she walked toward her old Chevrolet, unlikely places for a miracle. As if conjured by that thought, her memory drifted to Nathan once more, his understated politeness, the way he seemed genuinely surprised by her kindness. She still wondered who he was. He had mentioned passing through Charleston, but that was all. And yet, a nagging sense of curiosity about him lingered. "Focus, Jen," she muttered under her breath, sliding into the driver's seat. The hospital's future wasn't going to be saved by daydreaming about a stranger. That night, she found herself hunched over her small kitchen table, scribbling notes on a legal pad. Ideas for fundraisers crowded the page: community bake sale, silent auction, local business sponsorship, social media campaign. Each idea carried logistical hurdles, time, resources, connections she wasn't sure she had. A single tear dropped onto the paper when she realized just how daunting it all felt. The shrill ring of her phone startled her. It was Sarah. "Jen, you need to turn on the TV right now." Her friend's voice was urgent. Puzzled, Jennifer grabbed the remote and flipped through channels until she saw the local news. A short segment teased an upcoming story. Billionaire Nathan Pierce, rumored to be traveling incognito. Could he be in our state? Stay tuned for more details. Her brow furrowed. Nathan Pierce. She'd heard that name before, some reclusive businessman known for philanthropic initiatives. But was that the same Nathan she'd met on the roadside? The notion seemed too far-fetched. Shaking her head, she dismissed the idea. It was probably a coincidence. There had to be more than one Nathan in the world, after all. When the segment aired, it showed an old interview clip of a well-dressed man with a practiced smile, far different from the scruffy, rain-soaked figure she'd encountered. Nathan Pierce, the reporter said, inherited a significant fortune and built a reputation for surprising investments and secretive travels. Rumors suggest he's taken a break from the public eye. Jennifer turned off the TV, heart pounding. Even if it was the same person, why would a billionaire pretend to be an ordinary guy with a flat tire on a random night? It didn't make sense. With a deep sigh, she returned to her fundraiser notes, forcing her mind to refocus on the real problem. Several hours later, her phone buzzed again, this time a text from Sarah. "Hospital meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Something about a potential partnership." That flicker of hope spurred Jennifer to keep going. Maybe a local business was stepping in with a sponsorship. She felt a surge of possibility, a reminder that not all was lost. In a modest hotel across town, Nathan Pierce, indeed the same man from the news clip, scrolled through his phone, scanning local headlines. He paused when he saw coverage of hospital cutbacks in Charleston. Images of children, huddled in pastel-colored wards, brought him back to the memory of Jennifer offering her coat as she knelt to fix his tire. Her kindness had been remarkable. Part of him ached to help, but he knew revealing himself might shatter the fragile sincerity he was searching for. Setting the phone aside, he made a mental note to visit that same diner again. He couldn't explain it fully, but something about Jennifer Williams felt worth knowing, even if it meant living a lie a bit longer. Early the next morning, Jennifer walked into the hospital's main conference room, uncertain what to expect. Several department heads were already there, including Dr. Peterson. Sarah waved her over to an empty seat near the front. "Any idea who we're meeting?" Jennifer whispered. Sarah shook her head. "No clue. I just heard it might be someone interested in learning about our programs." The hospital director cleared his throat, calling the room to order. "Thank you all for coming on short notice. We have a visitor today who wants to explore possible avenues for collaboration and community support." Jennifer fought the urge to bounce her knee nervously. Every time the door creaked open, her heart stuttered with anticipation. Perhaps it was a local business owner or a philanthropist. Finally, a middle-aged woman with a briefcase stepped in, introduced as an agent from a nearby charitable foundation. They exchanged polite conversation. While her interest in the pediatric oncology ward seemed genuine, it quickly became evident that the foundation's budget was modest. By the time the meeting wrapped up, there was no concrete promise of large-scale help, only the usual, "We'll see what we can do." As the group dispersed, Dr. Peterson gave Jennifer an encouraging nod. "Don't lose hope. Sometimes multiple small donations can add up." She wished she could share his optimism. The reality was that the hospital needed a big sponsor, someone capable of covering extensive treatment costs. She left the conference room, a swirl of relief and disappointment colliding in her chest. At least there was some interest, but it felt like a drop in the ocean. That afternoon, she took a brief break and made her way to the small diner near the hospital, the same place she'd run into Nathan. The bell chimed overhead as she pushed open the door. Inside, the clatter of plates and muffled conversations created a cozy atmosphere. She settled into a corner booth, nursing a cup of coffee and trying to draft a more formal proposal for potential donors. Her concentration faltered, though, as she glanced around, half expecting to see a familiar baseball cap. To her mixed relief and disappointment, Nathan was nowhere in sight. But moments later, the bell chimed again. Jennifer looked up, heart skipping a beat. There he was, wearing a simple navy jacket and scanning the diner. When he saw her, he paused, surprise flickering across his features. Then, with a small nod of acknowledgement, he approached. "Hey," she greeted, setting her coffee down. "Didn't expect to see you again," he offered a slight smile. "I guess I like the coffee here. Mind if I join you?" She gestured to the seat across from her. As he slid into the booth, Jennifer couldn't ignore the same polite reserve that had marked their previous encounters. It was as though he was both comfortable and guarded at the same time. "Everything okay with your car?" she asked, summoning a casual tone. "Yeah, fine," he answered. "Thanks again for helping me out that night. It was something I won't forget." Jennifer waved off his gratitude. "I'm just glad it was a simple fix." She hesitated, then decided to be direct. "What about you? You said you were just passing through Charleston, but you're still here." Nathan looked down, tracing the rim of his coffee cup with a finger. "I decided to stick around a bit longer, needed a break from my usual routines." She waited for more, but he didn't elaborate. Instead, he glanced at the paperwork on the table. "Are you working on something important?" Jennifer sighed. "It's a proposal for potential donors. Our pediatric oncology ward is facing budget cuts, so I'm trying to raise money." Nathan's expression softened. "That sounds challenging." "It is," she admitted, inhaling slowly. "But I can't just stand by while these kids lose access to treatment." She paused, wondering why she felt so comfortable sharing her burden with someone she barely knew. He nodded thoughtfully. Would it help if I knew some people? Maybe I could pass your proposal along." Jennifer blinked. "You have contacts in the medical field." Nathan seemed to choose his words carefully. "I've worked with healthcare suppliers in the past. No guarantees, but I might be able to make some introductions." Gratitude swelled in her chest. "Anything would help," she murmured. He took a sip of his coffee, clearly turning something over in his mind. "All right. Let me see what I can do." A flicker of hope lit Jennifer's face. "I appreciate it, Nathan. Really?" They talked a bit longer, carefully skirting personal details, exchanging only hints about their lives. Yet for Jennifer, the conversation was like a lifeline. Even if it didn't pan out, the mere act of someone outside the hospital taking an interest felt like validation. As they parted ways, the possibility of real help glimmered in her mind. Still, she couldn't quite shake a nagging doubt. He was charming, yes, and apparently resourceful, but something about his subdued manner suggested secrets he wasn't ready to share. She wondered if she was too desperate to question the sincerity of his offer. After all, any lead was better than none, and time was running out. Thus ended another day in the swirling uncertainty of a world where yes and no danced precariously close. Little did Jennifer know, she stood on the precipice of a story that would test her convictions, challenge her heart, and forge an unbreakable bond with the man called Nathan Pierce. Jennifer stepped into the hospital's cramped volunteer office, where Dottie Evans sat at a small desk, organizing craft supplies for the pediatric ward. The older woman's silver hair glinted beneath the fluorescent lights, and her warm smile broadened when she spotted Jennifer hovering in the doorway. "Come on in, dear," Dottie beckoned, motioning to a second chair. "You look like you've got a million thoughts swirling around in that head of yours." Jennifer let out a weary chuckle. "That obvious?" Dottie studied her kindly. "I've seen that expression on the faces of many who shoulder the weight of other people's problems. You can talk to me." Pulling the chair closer, Jennifer lowered herself onto it. She explained the hospital's dire financial situation and the potential loss of crucial oncology services. She confessed that she was scrambling for solutions, losing sleep over fundraisers, donation proposals, and all the while feeling powerless. Her voice wavered when she mentioned Christopher, the young boy she cared for who needed better treatment options. Dottie nodded patiently through every word. "I wish it weren't so," she said softly, "but sometimes saving a program takes more than just good intentions. It requires strategy, connections, and a bit of faith." Jennifer looked up. "Connections. That's where I'm lost. I don't know anyone with significant resources." The image of Nathan flitted through her mind, but she pushed it aside. He was just a traveling salesman, unless he really did have some contacts, as he claimed. Dottie folded her hands. "Well, have you considered appealing directly to the public? A community drive, perhaps? Charleston has a generous spirit." "I have," Jennifer replied, "and I've drawn up ideas like benefit dinners and silent auctions, but I'm not sure how to rally enough people quickly. Dr. Peterson is supportive, but we're running out of time." The older woman leaned forward, her voice hushed. "People will follow a cause that's presented with heart. You have plenty of that, Jennifer. You just need to speak from it. Tell your personal story, how you lost your father, how you're committed to preventing others from facing the same hardship." Jennifer's eyes flickered. "But that story is painful." "All the more reason to share it." "Pain can move hearts," Dottie said gently. "And if you're looking for influential figures, sometimes they appear where you least expect." A memory of kneeling in the rain to fix Nathan's tire flashed across Jennifer's mind. Did that chance encounter hold more significance than she realized? She toyed with the idea of telling Dottie about Nathan's vague offer to help, but decided to stay silent for now. It felt too uncertain to be worth mentioning. With renewed conviction, Jennifer thanked Dottie and stood up. "I'll do it. I'll find a way to tell my story, gather the community, and maybe even catch the attention of bigger sponsors." Dottie reached out and squeezed Jennifer's hand. "We're all behind you. Remember, sometimes it takes just one person to inspire many." Outside, the sky was bright, a welcome contrast to the previous days of rain. Jennifer headed to the pediatric ward, determined to finalize her next steps. Walking past rows of colored drawings taped to the walls, she felt a wellspring of resolve rise within her. She might not have wealth or powerful alliances yet, but she had compassion, and that had to count for something. Midway down the corridor, Sarah intercepted her. "There you are, Doctor. Peterson wants to see us about the fundraiser plans." They made their way to his office, where the hospital director sat behind a desk stacked with paperwork. He was on the phone, finishing a call. When he hung up, he gestured for them to sit. "I've got a small piece of good news," he began, managing a tight smile. "A local radio station has agreed to give us some airtime for free. They'll help promote any fundraising event we organize." Jennifer's posture relaxed with relief. "That's fantastic. We were just discussing ways to reach more people." Sarah chimed in. "We could highlight stories of the children, maybe a short interview with Christopher's mom or another family who's benefited from the oncology ward. Personal stories could convince listeners to donate." Dr. Peterson nodded. "Precisely. If we present a compelling narrative, we might encourage local businesses to chip in, too." While they brainstormed, Jennifer felt a nudge of confidence. Dottie's counsel played through her mind. People respond to passion and honesty. Maybe everything was lining up in small, promising steps. Once the meeting concluded, Jennifer passed through the lobby, where cheerful volunteers directed visitors to various wards. Before heading home, she paused by a bulletin board displaying charity announcements. On a whim, she pinned a simple note: "Hospital in urgent need of sponsors for pediatric oncology. Contact Nurse Jennifer Williams." It was a start, a public declaration of the cause close to her heart. Outside, the crisp air carried the promise of new beginnings. Jennifer resolved that, by combining Dottie's guidance, the hospital's resources, and her own unwavering dedication, she'd muster the courage to push forward. She thought again of Nathan, the stranger who seemed so oddly invested in her situation. Time would tell whether that was a stroke of fate or just another dead end. Morning light streamed through the thin curtains of Jennifer's apartment, illuminating the small living room, where boxes of donated items stood stacked by the wall. She had spent the previous evening sorting through clothes, toys, and books that local residents had given after hearing the hospital's story on the radio. A faint ache in her shoulders reminded her how she'd hauled most of those boxes alone. A knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Sarah balancing 2 cups of coffee, a sympathetic grin on her face. "Figured you could use a caffeine boost," she said, stepping inside. Jennifer took one of the cups eagerly. "You're an angel. This is exactly what I need." Sarah surveyed the makeshift donation center in the living room. "You're really pushing yourself. Are you sure you can handle all this and still work your shifts?" Jennifer shrugged. "I have to try. Besides, I might have more help soon. The phone's been ringing with people offering random items for an auction we're planning. Nothing huge, but maybe it'll build momentum." They spent the next hour sifting through clothes in various sizes, deciding which pieces were worth putting into a charity sale. Halfway through, Jennifer's cell phone chimed. She glanced at the screen. It was Nathan. "Hi," she answered, standing up and motioning for Sarah to keep sorting. "Yes, I'm here. Actually, that's perfect timing." She listened intently, then nodded. "Sure, I'll swing by the diner later. Thank you." When she hung up, Sarah quirked an eyebrow. "Was that who I think it was? Your mysterious roadside friend?" Jennifer handed Sarah a pair of children's boots to set aside. He said he might have leads on some local businesses. Could be useful for the big fundraiser. Uh-huh, Sarah teased. You say useful, but I see that sparkle in your eyes. Ignoring the remark, Jennifer resumed folding clothes, though she couldn't deny a flicker of excitement. The truth was, part of her was intrigued by Nathan, his politeness, his thoughtful manner, and how he seemed so attuned to her problems. Yet she also worried about relying on someone she barely knew. Overdependence was dangerous, especially in times like these. That afternoon, she drove to the diner, carefully navigating Charleston's busy streets. The radio station played a short segment announcing the hospital's ongoing need for donations, which bolstered her spirits. Upon arriving, she saw Nathan seated in the same corner booth where they'd spoken before, a folder open in front of him. He greeted her with a tentative smile. I gathered some information, he said, tapping the folder. Names of small businesses and individuals who might be interested in contributing. They're not major corporations, but they could help. Jennifer slid into the booth, heart fluttering. Thank you. This is more than I expected. Nathan handed her a page of handwritten notes. Most are folks I've done business with, or at least know through acquaintances. I'm not promising they'll all jump on board, but it's worth a try. She studied the list. A landscaping company, a real estate broker, a bakery chain, each with a contact name and number. This is great. I'll start making calls. Maybe they could donate items to our silent auction or sponsor a portion of the hospital's equipment. Nathan nodded, clearly relieved she found the list helpful. How's everything else going with the fundraiser? Chaotic, she admitted with a small laugh. I'm juggling so many tasks, organizing, collecting donations, coordinating with the hospital, but I have to do it. A moment of companionable silence followed, both sipping their coffee. Eventually, Nathan broke the stillness. You know, it takes courage to do what you're doing. I hope you're also taking time for yourself. Jennifer felt a twinge of vulnerability. Let's just say self-care isn't high on my priority list right now. The kids come first. He folded his hands, pondering her reply. Sometimes you have to look after yourself so you can be strong for others. Just keep that in mind. His concern touched her. She realized she knew almost nothing personal about him. Where he grew up, what his family was like, or even his true occupation. Before she could ask, however, Nathan looked at his watch and stood. I've got to run, he murmured. Call me if any of these leads pan out. And let me know if you need anything else. She thanked him again, noticing a fleeting hesitance in his expression, as though he wanted to say more, but couldn't. Then he turned and headed out the door. Back in her car, Jennifer placed the list of contacts on the passenger seat. A surge of resolve swelled within her. She was leaving her routine behind, no more quietly accepting the hospital's fate. She was actively shaping a new path, uncertain though it might be. She thought of Dottie's words, about how sometimes help comes from unexpected places. Maybe trusting Nathan was part of that unpredictable route. Gazing at the street before her, she started the engine, bracing herself for the next steps in this unfamiliar yet necessary journey. The old routine of clocking in, clocking out, and worrying silently was gone. In its place stood a daunting challenge, and somehow she found herself ready to face it, one call, one donor, one precious life at a time. Sunlight streamed into the modest auditorium of a local community center where Jennifer had organized her first official fundraising event, a small-scale rummage sale featuring the donations she and Sarah had gathered. Tables lined the room, piled high with clothes, books, and household goods. Hand-painted signs proclaimed, "All proceeds go to the pediatric oncology ward." She arrived early to oversee final preparations. Despite the slight flutter in her stomach, she felt a rush of excitement. Dottie was already at work, placing crocheted blankets and quilts on a separate table. Sarah rearranged the children's section, ensuring that toys and colorful storybooks were front and center. "All right, team," Jennifer said, clapping her hands softly to gain everyone's attention. "We open in 15 minutes. Let's do one last check." Volunteers hurried around, making sure price tags were visible and items were sorted neatly. A few local musicians had agreed to play gentle tunes in the background, hoping to keep visitors in a generous spirit. At the stroke of 10, the doors opened and the first trickle of people entered. Jennifer greeted them with a warm smile, explaining how their purchases would directly support life-saving treatments. By midday, the room was bustling. Families browsed tables, seniors from the nearby church group examined handcrafted items, and kids ran around, chattering excitedly. The communal energy felt uplifting, exactly what Jennifer had hoped for. While helping an older couple select a set of decorative plates, Jennifer noticed Nathan by the entrance, quietly observing the scene. He caught her glance and offered a brief nod. Once she finished with the couple, she joined him. "I'm surprised to see you here," she said, genuinely pleased. Nathan gestured at the lively gathering. "I wanted to see how it was going. Looks like quite a turnout." Jennifer couldn't hide a small grin. "It's more than I expected. We've raised some money already, and the day's not over. It's a start." She hesitated, then added, "Thank you for the contacts you gave me. One of them, Miranda from the bakery, donated a bunch of pastries for today. They sold out almost immediately." He appeared gratified by the news. "I'm glad I could help in some way." A young mother approached, cradling a baby and asking for directions to the clothing racks. Jennifer excused herself to guide the woman, leaving Nathan momentarily alone. He wandered among the tables, overhearing snippets of conversations about the hospital's plight and the urgent need to keep oncology treatments afloat. At one table, Dottie was enthusiastically telling a shopper that she volunteered at the hospital for over a decade. Nathan lingered, listening quietly. "So many people have no idea what happens behind those hospital walls," Dottie said, folding a small blanket. "But once you see those little faces fighting for their lives, you realize how important every dollar can be." Nathan cleared his throat softly, catching Dottie's attention. She recognized him from Jennifer's descriptions. "You must be the gentleman who's been giving Jennifer a hand," she said, smiling. "I've heard a bit about you." "Pleased to finally meet you. Name's Dorothy Evans, but everyone calls me Dottie." "Nathan," he replied, offering a polite handshake. "I admire the work you do. Jennifer speaks highly of your dedication," Dottie beamed. "Well, she's the real hero here. Good heart, that one." She glanced around the bustling hall. "Some people look at these events and see a drop in the bucket, but I see hope, and I'll take hope wherever I can get it." Nathan nodded in agreement. "I'm beginning to understand that myself." They chatted a bit longer before Dottie excused herself to assist another customer. Left alone, Nathan found his mind swirling with conflicting emotions: admiration for Jennifer's determination, concern over the hospital's financial crisis, and a growing urge to do something significant without revealing his identity. He'd intended this trip to Charleston as an escape from the insincerity of his billionaire life, yet everything here felt far more real than anything he'd known in recent years. The day wore on, and the rummage sale continued to attract people. Sarah and Jennifer tallied up proceeds at a small table in the corner, occasionally glancing at each other in disbelief as the total crept upward. "We might have enough to upgrade a piece of equipment," Sarah whispered, elation tinging her voice. Jennifer placed a hand over her mouth, stifling an emotional gasp. "This is only the first fundraiser," she said softly, but her eyes shone with grateful tears. "Maybe we really can do it." A few yards away, Nathan pretended to browse a stack of used books, watching Jennifer's reaction. A quiet satisfaction spread through him, as though he were witnessing the realization of something profoundly meaningful. When the event finally wrapped up, volunteers began to pack unsold items into boxes for future sales. Jennifer's cheeks were flushed, her hair slightly disheveled, but her smile radiated triumph. As she passed Nathan on her way to store some leftover clothes, he gently touched her elbow. "Congratulations," he said. "You pulled this off beautifully." She set the box down, a tired but genuine grin lighting her face. "Thank you for being here, and for helping. It means more than you know." They stood for a moment, silent amidst the bustling cleanup. Though the day's success felt like a small step, it was also a doorway into a new world, one of possibilities and connections she was only beginning to discover. And with Nathan's quiet presence at her side, that world seemed a little less daunting and a great deal more hopeful. 2 days after the rummage sale, Jennifer found herself parked outside a nondescript office building on the outskirts of Charleston. According to Nathan's list, a real estate broker named Ruth Hernandez worked here and had expressed interest in sponsoring part of the hospital's fundraiser. Jennifer fiddled with a stack of informational pamphlets in the passenger seat, steeling herself for another pitch. When she entered the small lobby, Ruth, a poised woman with a sharp bob haircut, greeted her. "You're the nurse I've heard so much about," she said, her tone brisk but not unfriendly. "Come on in. Let's talk." Over the next half hour, Jennifer explained the gravity of the oncology unit's needs, describing the variety of treatments, the ongoing research, and the personal stories of children like Christopher. Ruth asked probing questions about how the funds would be allocated and whether there were naming opportunities for bigger donors. Jennifer calmly outlined the hospital's guidelines, drawing on newfound confidence gained from recent successes. "This is a cause that resonates with our team," Ruth admitted. "We've had employees who needed extended medical care for their children. I can't promise a fortune, but I'd like to contribute a portion of our commission from upcoming home sales, maybe 5% for a 3-month period." Jennifer nearly jumped out of her seat with gratitude. "That's an incredible gesture. Thank you so much." "It's good PR for us too," Ruth said, though her voice softened. "But mostly, I like knowing we're making a difference." They shook hands, solidifying the agreement. On her way back to the car, Jennifer let out an exhilarated laugh. Each new meeting felt like stepping into a new realm, frightening, but also full of promise. That afternoon, she returned to the hospital to update Dr. Peterson. When he heard about the broker's commitment, his eyes flickered with cautious optimism. "Every bit helps. Keep us posted." Jennifer then headed to her usual post in the pediatric ward, checking in on Christopher and the other young patients. She noticed that the mood there felt lighter than before. Families exchanged hopeful glances, and some even asked about the events the hospital was planning. The swirl of positive energy gave Jennifer an extra boost. Later, while printing out more pamphlets at the admin desk, she caught sight of Sarah rummaging through a file cabinet. "Hey, guess what?" Jennifer said, brandishing the newly signed agreement with Ruth's logo. "Real estate sponsorship, 5% from each home sale for the next 3 months." Sarah clapped a hand to her mouth. "You're kidding. That's wonderful." She set down the file she was holding and embraced Jennifer. "I'm proud of you." Though the praise warmed her, Jennifer also recognized how foreign this felt, stepping beyond her comfort zone of patient care into the territory of negotiations, marketing, and public relations. She was no longer just a nurse. She was becoming an advocate, a fundraiser, someone forced to navigate unfamiliar landscapes. And while it was daunting, she was adapting, spurred by her devotion to the children and by allies like Dottie, Sarah, and unexpectedly, Nathan. In the evening, she swung by the diner to grab a quick meal. Once again, she spotted Nathan in his usual booth, reading a newspaper. Her heart fluttered with a mixture of relief and anticipation. She approached, greeting him with a genuine smile. "Mind if I sit?" He gestured to the opposite seat. "Of course." "How'd your day go?" She regaled him with the story of her meeting with Ruth, voice lilting with excitement. "I never imagined myself talking in business terms, but I just kept thinking about how many kids' lives this money could impact." Nathan's eyes lit up with encouragement. "Sounds like you're finding your stride." He paused, as though weighing his next words. "Has the hospital seen any improvement yet?" She exhaled softly. "We still have a long way to go, but there's momentum. Dr. Peterson is cautiously hopeful. Some of my co-workers are pitching in with side events too." After a moment's silence, Nathan leaned forward. "If you ever need a venue for something bigger, like a gala dinner, let me know. I might be able to coordinate with a property owner I know." Jennifer studied him, curiosity brimming. "I'd appreciate that. But you must really have good contacts in multiple fields." He gave a non-committal shrug. "I've traveled a lot, met various people." Then, changing the subject, he asked, "So how are you holding up personally?" Surprised by the question, Jennifer hesitated. "I'm exhausted, honestly, but I can't slow down now. If this all fails, I don't think I could forgive myself." Nathan's gaze softened. "It won't fail. Not while you're leading the charge." Their eyes locked for a moment, a quiet intimacy forming in the noise of the diner. In that fleeting space, Jennifer felt simultaneously seen and exposed. She realized that Nathan's words, calm and measured, always seemed to encourage her at just the right time. She finished her coffee and stood to leave. "Thanks for listening, and for always offering help. It means a lot." He smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes entirely. "Any time." As Jennifer left, she couldn't shake the sense that Nathan carried his own burdens, ones she barely glimpsed but sensed were significant. Adapting to her new role was difficult, but maybe Nathan, too, was navigating an unfamiliar path. And in that shared uncertainty, they found the beginnings of an unspoken understanding. 2 weeks later, a small group of new allies gathered in the hospital's conference room. At the table sat Dr. Peterson, Sarah, Dottie, Miranda, the bakery owner, and a newly introduced face, Samuel Porter, a local music teacher who had volunteered to coordinate a charity concert. Across from them, Jennifer shuffled a stack of papers detailing each upcoming fundraiser: the rummage sales, a city-wide bake-off, the real estate brokers' commissions, and now an open-air concert. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice laced with gratitude. "I know everyone is busy, but you're here because you believe in saving this program as much as I do." Miranda offered a tray of pastries she'd brought. "Consider it a sugar bribe to keep us all in a good mood," she joked, passing them around. Laughter circulated, dissolving the tension that often haunted these gatherings. Samuel, a tall, soft-spoken man, opened his planner. "I've got a band, a youth choir, and a couple of local soloists willing to perform for free. We can host the concert in the city park if we get a permit. All proceeds from ticket sales go directly to the hospital." Dr. Peterson's eyes lit up. "That's outstanding. We'll handle the medical side of things. Maybe set up an information booth about our pediatric oncology services." Dottie piped up. "I can organize a volunteer team for ushering and refreshments." Jennifer felt a surge of relief. They were coming together like a small battalion, each offering a unique skill. She delegated tasks, meticulously noting deadlines in her planner. For a moment, the overwhelming anxiety lifted, replaced by a sense of shared purpose. After the meeting adjourned, Jennifer walked Miranda to the hospital entrance. "Thank you for everything. Those pastries are a hit, and your donation of baked goods for the next sale will help draw bigger crowds." Miranda laughed. adjusting her coat. "Hey, I'm just doing my part. If we can get folks to open their wallets while satisfying their sweet tooth, I'm all in." Once Miranda departed, Jennifer noticed Nathan waiting in the lobby, chatting briefly with a nurse. He greeted Jennifer with a smile. "I'm not interrupting, am I?" She shook her head, gesturing to the now empty conference room. "We just wrapped up. Are you here about the possible venue for a gala? Because I've been thinking about that too." Nathan tilted his head. "Actually, yes. I spoke with a colleague who manages an event space. He's amenable to waiving some fees if we can guarantee a good turnout." Jennifer let out a small, delighted gasp. "That's fantastic news. Thank you." They found themselves alone in the corridor. Nathan walked alongside her as she moved toward the pediatric ward, the rhythmic squeak of her sneakers filling the space. She sensed the subtle shift in his mood. There was a hesitancy in his eyes, as though he wanted to confide but held back. "You're really diving into this," he remarked quietly. "I have to. The kids depend on us." She stole a quick look at him, then ventured, "You know, I've never seen you with family or heard you mention any. Do you have anyone close by?" Nathan paused, weighing his words. "My parents are gone. I have some extended family, but we're not exactly close." He forced a gentle smile. "I guess you could say I've been a lone wolf for a while." The admission caught her off guard. He rarely shared personal details, so she didn't press further. Instead, she nodded in understanding. "I'm sorry. I know what it's like to lose family. My father was everything to me." Their steps slowed as they approached the colorful double doors of the pediatric ward. Inside, children laughed and played, some wearing hospital gowns, others sitting in wheelchairs. The bright murals on the walls couldn't entirely disguise the gravity of their conditions, but they offered a hopeful, vibrant backdrop. Nathan's gaze drifted over the scene. Hard to imagine what they're going through, but their resilience is remarkable. Jennifer nodded. "That's why I fight so hard. They deserve a chance, like any other kid." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The corridor's buzz faded, and it felt as if they were standing in a quiet bubble of understanding. Jennifer sensed that, despite his reticence, Nathan empathized deeply with the vulnerability on display here. Eventually, a nurse approached with a polite request for Jennifer to attend to a family needing questions answered. She glanced back at Nathan. "I'll see you soon, okay? And thank you again for the venue lead." He gave her a respectful nod. "Anytime." As he walked away, Jennifer realized they shared more than just an interest in the hospital's welfare. They shared a commitment to compassion fueled by their own losses. In a way, their empathy bridged the gap between her life as a struggling nurse and whatever hidden world Nathan was part of. Returning to her duties, Jennifer reflected on the coalition of allies forming around her. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about a community of people driven by kindness. And while each day brought new challenges, the sense of unity provided a buoyancy that made the weight of responsibility feel lighter. She hoped that, in time, Nathan would let her fully see the person he was beneath the careful politeness. For now, though, this shared purpose was enough to keep her going, one determined step at a time. A few days later, Jennifer and Dr. Peterson sat in a cluttered hospital conference room, facing a stern-looking man in a crisp suit, Robert Crowley, the regional manager of a major pharmaceutical distributor. The tension was palpable as Mr. Crowley flipped through a contract proposal for discounted medication and supplies. After a prolonged silence, Mr. Crowley leaned back in his chair and adjusted his expensive watch. "Your hospital's request is substantial. We're open to negotiating a lower price on oncology drugs if you agree to specify our brand exclusively for all treatments." Jennifer exchanged a concerned glance with Dr. Peterson. Exclusive contracts often restricted patient options, sometimes forcing them to use less effective alternatives if a new therapy emerged. She cleared her throat. That might limit the hospital's ability to provide the best treatment, especially for experimental protocols or specific drug combinations. Crowley shrugged. It's standard practice. We need guaranteed market share to offset the discount. Dr. Peterson's expression tightened. We're exploring multiple partnerships, but patient well-being remains our top priority. We can't sign away our freedom to choose the most appropriate medication. Crowley arched an eyebrow. That's unfortunate. If you turn this down, you lose access to a significant discount. Without it, I doubt your program will remain financially viable. Jennifer's pulse quickened. She hated ultimatums like this, thinly veiled threats that exploited the hospital's desperation. Still, she held firm. We appreciate the offer, but we won't compromise the children's care. Our goal isn't just to survive, it's to ensure patients receive the best. A tense pause followed. At length, Crowley gave a dismissive snort. Very well. I'll let my superiors know you've declined. Good luck funding this ward otherwise. He stood, gathered his documents, and left. After the door slammed shut, Jennifer slumped in her chair, exhaustion etched into her features. He's got a point, she muttered. We do need affordable meds, but not at the expense of patient outcomes. Dr. Peterson massaged the bridge of his nose. We'll find another way. Crowley's terms are too rigid. He exhaled slowly, bracing himself. Still, this is a setback. Indeed, it felt like a substantial blow. Crowley's firm could have saved the hospital a large sum. Declining meant they'd have to scramble harder for funds. Jennifer's mind spun as she tried to envision an alternative. We have that open-air concert coming up, plus the potential gala, but I'm not sure it'll cover the shortfall in drug costs. Doctor. Peterson forced a hopeful tone. Keep forging ahead. I trust your instincts. Leaving the conference room, Jennifer struggled to contain her frustration. She texted Sarah about the disappointing meeting, then headed to the lobby. There, as if summoned by her distress, Nathan walked in. Concern creased his brow when he saw her. Bad day, he asked softly. She led him to a quieter hallway, away from the hospital bustle. Words spilled out in a rush about Crowley's demands and the potential crisis in drug costs. By the time she finished, Nathan's face was grim. That's a tough break. I'm sorry, he said, voice low. Jennifer rubbed her temples. I feel like no matter how hard we push, we keep hitting walls. We have a few fundraising ideas, but the amount we need keeps growing. Nathan hesitated, as though choosing his next words carefully. There might be other pharmaceutical providers. Maybe smaller ones willing to negotiate friendlier terms. She lifted her gaze. Know any? A flicker of something, guilt, conflict, crossed his eyes. I might have a contact or two. Let me see what I can do. In that moment, Jennifer noted his continued willingness to help. She wanted to ask more about his background, to question how he always seemed to have a connection in the right place. But she sensed he wasn't ready to reveal it yet. Thank you, she said instead. I'm grateful, even if nothing comes of it. At least we're trying. He offered a tight, reassuring smile. Don't lose faith in what you're doing. Sometimes one obstacle blocks the path to something better. Jennifer nodded, touched by his empathy. A wave of exhaustion hit her. I need to check on some patients, she murmured, but let me know if you hear anything. Nathan gently touched her arm in a brief gesture of solidarity. Of course, she watched him go, marveling at how he always appeared just when her confidence wavered most. Then, setting aside the swirl of conflicting emotions, she returned to the pediatric ward. There, a small girl named Lauren was drawing pictures of unicorns, her IV line discreetly taped to her arm. Seeing that bright expression amid such vulnerability reminded Jennifer why compromise wasn't an option. She needed to ensure these children had the very best chance at recovery. That night, the tension of the day lingered in her thoughts like a storm cloud. Crowley's rejection was a harsh reminder that she was still at the mercy of larger forces, money, influence, corporate agendas. But as she looked over the schedule of upcoming events and sponsor meetings, she felt a stubborn resolve ignite within her. She refused to let the ward slip away. Not after everything they'd accomplished. Jennifer could sense that the journey ahead would only get more demanding. Even so, she pressed on, buoyed by the knowledge that she wasn't alone. Dottie, Sarah, Miranda, the new allies, and perhaps most unexpectedly, Nathan, stood beside her, ready for the fight, and fight they would. The next week arrived cloaked in humid summer heat, and Jennifer Williams could feel the weight of her responsibilities in every drop of perspiration. She stood behind a small folding table on the sidewalk in downtown Charleston, handing out flyers for the upcoming open-air charity concert. Cars rumbled past on the street, and pedestrians scurried in and out of shops. She summoned her warmest smile each time she offered a pamphlet. "Help us save the pediatric oncology ward at Charleston Community Hospital." Beside her, Sarah tapped a clipboard. "We've got 3 more volunteers scheduled for this afternoon, but the real question is, will we sell enough tickets?" Jennifer's mouth twisted in a worried grin. "We have to. This concert, along with the gala, is our best chance to keep the ward afloat after losing that pharmaceutical deal." The memory of Robert Crowley's ultimatum still stung. Declining his exclusive contract had been the right choice morally, but it left them scrambling for funds. A few hours later, Jennifer returned to the hospital, her arms aching from carrying a box of leftover flyers. Dottie Evans greeted her at the volunteer desk, wearing her usual bright smile. "I set up a bulletin board by the main entrance," Dottie said. "People can see photos of the children and learn how the event proceeds will help pay for treatments." Jennifer's eyes misted. "Thank you, Dottie. You're a godsend." Then she recalled another task. "I need to check on Christopher. It's his chemo day." She found Christopher's room lively with soft music, courtesy of Samuel Porter, the music teacher who'd volunteered to play uplifting tunes. Christopher's mother perched anxiously at the bedside, but her son was surprisingly calm. Jennifer approached, greeting them both gently. "How are you holding up, buddy?" Christopher, small and pale but bright-eyed, raised a thumb. "Better now? Mr. Porter showed me how to tap my fingers like a piano." Samuel beamed. "He's a natural, has a good sense of rhythm." Jennifer listened for a moment, letting the notes chase away her lingering worries. These mini distractions were crucial for the young patients facing grueling treatments. After the music session, she checked Christopher's vitals and assured his mother the oncology team was monitoring him closely. As she left, she overheard Christopher telling Samuel, "I'm going to play at your concert when I'm better." The statement clutched at her heart, a testament to the hope they all clung to. Outside in the hallway, her phone buzzed. She stepped aside to answer. "Hello?" Nathan's familiar voice came through, subdued yet reassuring. "Hey, I got a few potential leads on alternative suppliers for the hospital's medications. Smaller companies, but more flexible. I emailed you some info." Her spirits lifted. "Thank you, that's exactly what we need." She paused, uncertain whether to say more. Over the past weeks, Nathan had proven invaluable, calling in favors and sending Jennifer tips that opened unexpected doors. He cleared his throat. "Any word on that big event space for the gala?" "I'm meeting with the owner tomorrow," she said. "You sure your contact is okay waiving part of the rental fee?" Nathan's hesitation was brief. "He's an old friend. Trust me, it'll be fine. Let me know how it goes." After they hung up, Jennifer stood there a moment, letting relief wash over her. A year ago, she wouldn't have believed a near stranger could become such a key ally. But she refused to question fate. She had children depending on these connections. Resuming her rounds, she mulled over everything that still needed doing, securing permits for the concert, organizing raffle prizes, arranging the gala's catering. Each task felt like a small test of her resolve. That evening, she and Sarah convened at Jennifer's apartment to sort through additional raffle donations. Stuffed animals, a basket of homemade soaps, even a few restaurant gift certificates. These are great for smaller prizes, but we need something bigger for the grand prize, Sarah noted, sipping the iced tea Jennifer had poured. Jennifer nodded thoughtfully. I've tried calling around for bigger items, like a weekend getaway or something. No luck so far. Sarah grinned conspiratorially. What if we asked Nathan to sponsor something? Jennifer paused, a hint of confusion crossing her face. Sponsor? He's not exactly... She trailed off, unsure how to describe him. He wasn't just a friend, nor exactly a business associate. He's helped a lot already. True, Sarah agreed. Just a thought. They fell into a comfortable silence as they organized the items. Jennifer caught herself glancing at her phone, wondering if Nathan might text again. She'd come to rely on his suggestions, yet the more she learned, the more she sensed an untold story behind his kindness. Half an hour later, they finished labeling the raffle prizes. Sarah headed home, leaving Jennifer alone with her thoughts. She climbed into bed, exhaustion tugging at her eyelids, but sleep proved elusive. The day's successes, ticket sales, children's laughter, fresh leads on suppliers, still danced in her mind, intermingled with the sobering knowledge that the greatest challenges likely lay ahead. Eventually, she drifted off, comforted by the notion that each small victory was part of a larger test, one that demanded ingenuity, empathy, and unshakable commitment. Tomorrow would bring new hurdles. But for now, she allowed herself a rare moment of peace, dreaming of a future where every child in that ward would receive the best care possible, and maybe, in that same future, she'd unravel the mystery of Nathan's true life. In the early morning light, Jennifer slipped into the hospital's chapel, a small, quiet room with rows of wooden benches and stained glass windows that refracted shards of colorful dawn. She wasn't particularly religious, but over the years she had come to this chapel whenever her burdens felt especially heavy. This time was no different. She sat in the front pew, folding her hands in her lap. Memories of her father surfaced, along with the lingering ache of regrets. Had she done enough for him when he was sick? Could she have found better doctors, better treatments? A wave of guilt struck her. His final wish was that she continue nursing, saving lives where his own care had fallen short. Maybe that was why she felt so compelled to preserve the oncology ward. It wasn't just about the kids, it was also about fulfilling an unspoken promise to her father. A gentle creak made her look up. Dr. Peterson stood in the chapel doorway, offering a faint smile of sympathy. "I sometimes forget this place exists until times get tough," he murmured. Approaching quietly, he sat beside her. She offered a small nod. "It helps me think, or at least helps me not to overthink." They sat in silence for a beat, the sunlight painting their faces in muted hues. Finally, Dr. Peterson spoke. "Jennifer, the board meeting is next week. They'll decide how much more time we have before implementing cuts. The fundraisers have been helpful, but the deficit remains large." She stared at the stained glass window. "I know. We're giving it everything we've got. The open-air concert is in a few days, and the gala's in a month. I'm hoping those will tip the scales." His eyes reflected empathy and concern. "You've done more than anyone could ask, but if we don't reach our goal..." "Don't say it," she whispered, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. "I can't handle the thought of losing the program or having to turn away a child who needs care." Her voice faltered. "Doctor." Peterson placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We haven't lost yet." Once he left, Jennifer found herself struggling with an old familiar doubt. Was she good enough, strong enough, to bear this responsibility? She gathered her composure and headed out, determined to push forward, no matter her own internal misgivings. A few hours later, she stepped into one of the hospital's smaller meeting rooms, where Sarah, Dottie, and a handful of volunteers were assembling care packages for the children undergoing chemotherapy. Sensing Jennifer's subdued demeanor, Dottie nudged Sarah and quietly led Jennifer to a corner. "Everything all right, dear?" Dottie asked, concern etching her brow. Jennifer managed a shaky smile. "Just nerves about the board meeting. And I miss my dad, that's all." Dottie's expression softened. "He'd be proud of what you're doing. Sometimes, when we carry on our loved ones' hopes, it feels heavy, but it's also a way to keep them alive in our hearts." The words soothed Jennifer. "You're right, Dottie. I just wish it felt less like a burden sometimes." Dottie squeezed Jennifer's hand gently. "Burdens are lighter when shared. Remember that." That evening, Jennifer found herself at the city park to finalize logistics for the open-air concert with Samuel. Gazing at the makeshift stage they'd constructed, she couldn't help admiring the sense of camaraderie. Local residents had come together to put this event on its feet. Colorful string lights were already set up, and a few volunteers tested the sound equipment. Samuel approached, offering a bottle of water. "It's looking good, huh?" She nodded, pressing the cold plastic to her forehead. "I just hope we get a decent crowd. This city can be unpredictable." He gave her a reassuring grin. "Words traveling, we'll fill these seats." Jennifer's phone vibrated. Another text from Nathan. "Checked with a mid-sized supplier about cost reductions. Could be promising. We'll keep you posted." She exhaled a silent breath of relief, typing back a quick "thank you." Lately, it felt like she was juggling 1,000 spinning plates. The ward's finances, event planning, nurturing the children's spirits, and her own escalating feelings of responsibility, fear, and even curiosity about Nathan. Standing at the edge of the stage, she let the warm summer breeze dry the perspiration on her temples. Tomorrow's concert loomed, and with it the potential to raise a significant sum. But in her heart, she knew money alone wouldn't solve every challenge. There was also the creeping worry that time was running out. As dusk settled, she packed up and headed home, a swirl of unresolved emotions in her chest. Guilt about not being enough, hope for the children's futures, suspicion that Nathan was more than he claimed. Those threads tangled in her mind, forming an inner conflict she couldn't yet unravel. But one fact remained unshakable. She would not abandon this fight, even if it tested every fiber of her being. The day of the open-air concert dawned bright and hot. Volunteers bustled around the city park, arranging folding chairs, stringing up more lights, and setting up concession stands. Jennifer zipped between the sound booth and the seating area, clutching a clipboard that listed performer schedules, ticket sales, and emergency contacts. Despite her best efforts to remain calm, a knot of anxiety coiled in her stomach. By late afternoon, families began trickling in, buying tickets and finding shady spots beneath the tall oak trees. The stage, decorated with a simple banner reading "Together for the Kids," stood ready. As showtime neared, more people arrived, filling rows of seats. Music students ran last-minute instrument checks, tuning violins and guitars. Samuel paced at the side of the stage, giving final instructions to the youth choir. "Look at that," Sarah whispered, nudging Jennifer. "We've got a bigger crowd than I expected." A cautious smile broke across Jennifer's face. "Let's hope it translates into donations." When the first act took the stage, a local band playing upbeat folk rock, polite applause rippled through the audience. Jennifer exhaled a momentary sigh of relief. At least the event had started smoothly. But an hour in, ominous grey clouds gathered on the horizon. A gust of wind rattled the sound equipment, causing feedback to screech through the speakers. The crowd stirred uneasily, some glancing skyward in apprehension. Jennifer's heart plummeted. Charleston's weather was famously unpredictable. She hurried to find Samuel, who was consulting with the stage manager. "Tell me we have a backup plan," she pleaded. "We can move everyone into the community hall next to the park," Samuel said, "but we'll lose a lot of time transitioning, and the acoustics aren't great. We might lose the crowd too." Thunder grumbled in the distance. The band abruptly finished their set, and the wind picked up. Raindrops began tapping on the stage roof, scattering people in the front rows. Jennifer grabbed the mic to address the restless audience. "Everyone, please bear with us. There's a chance of a passing shower, but we're hoping it won't last long. Meanwhile, feel free to visit the concession stands and remain under the covered areas." The drizzle swiftly intensified, turning into a downpour. Attendees scrambled for shelter, covering their heads with programs or jackets. Volunteers frantically rushed to protect instruments from the sudden deluge. Jennifer felt her stomach twist. This was supposed to be the day they raised crucial funds for the hospital ward. Now it looked like a washout. Amid the chaos, she spotted Nathan stepping out of the crowd, an umbrella in hand. He hurried over, beckoning her under the small canopy. "Any chance this will pass quickly?" he asked, water dripping from the edge of the umbrella. Jennifer's voice trembled with frustration. "I doubt it. Look at those clouds." She gestured to the dark sky, where lightning flashed menacingly. "Then we need to relocate," Nathan said decisively. "Better to salvage the event inside the hall than to cancel outright." She nodded, running a hand through her damp hair. "We'll lose some people, but maybe we can keep the most committed supporters." They spent the next 20 minutes coordinating a mad dash to the community hall, hauling instruments, chairs, and refreshments inside. Dozens of spectators decided to leave rather than endure the cramped indoor space. By the time they'd reassembled a makeshift stage, the crowd had thinned considerably. Nevertheless, Jennifer refused to give up. She climbed onto the small platform, tapping the mic to get the group's attention. "Thank you all for bearing with us. We're continuing the concert in here. All proceeds go to our pediatric oncology ward, so please stay if you can and donate if you're moved by the cause." The remaining audience clapped politely, though it was clear some of the earlier excitement had waned. The youth choir performed bravely, their voices echoing off the hall's bare walls. Next came a local jazz trio, followed by a heartfelt solo from a teenage violinist. Funds trickled in, but Jennifer sensed it wasn't close to what they'd hoped for. When the final act concluded, she tallied the donations with Sarah. The total fell dishearteningly short of their target. Her shoulders sagged as the reality sank in. This event, which had taken so much effort to organize, might not even cover a fraction of the hospital's looming expenses. Nathan approached quietly, touching her elbow in a consoling gesture. "I'm sorry about the weather," she nodded, blinking back tears of frustration. "We did everything we could, but it wasn't enough." Even as she collected stray pamphlets from the floor, she fought the urge to cry. They had faced an obstacle that no amount of planning could fully overcome: nature's unpredictable force. If she couldn't control a simple thing like the weather, how could she hope to battle the larger forces threatening the ward? Yet, through the haze of disappointment, Jennifer reminded herself that giving up was not an option. This setback, like the rainfall, would pass. She just didn't know how many more storms she could endure before the entire cause collapsed under the weight of the impossible. Jennifer sat hunched over the hospital cafeteria table the morning after the rained-out concert, A half-eaten muffin lay forgotten on her tray. She flipped through the final donation tallies, noting the glaring gap between what they had raised and what was needed. Despite the disappointment, she forced herself to focus. There were still opportunities ahead, like the upcoming gala. Across the table, Sarah sipped her coffee. I know it feels like a failure, but we did bring in some funds, and maybe we can do another small concert or event before the gala. Jennifer rubbed her temple. It's a thought. I'm worn out. We all are. Before Sarah could respond, Dr. Peterson strode in, an unusual spark in his eyes. Jennifer, have you heard the news? She blinked, bracing for more bad tidings. What now? Mr. Crowley got wind of our continuing efforts, and apparently there's a rival pharmaceutical company that wants to provide a more compassionate deal. They approached us after learning about the open-air concert fiasco. The coverage might have been smaller than we hoped, but it still caught their attention. Jennifer straightened. Seriously, they're willing to talk? Dr. Peterson held out a business card. They requested a meeting this week. It's not a guarantee, but it's promising. Their rep even mentioned your name specifically, praising your dedication. Sarah let out a small squeal of delight. That's fantastic. For the first time since the rainout, Jennifer felt a flicker of hope. She pocketed the card. I'll call them as soon as possible. That afternoon, Jennifer was prepping IV lines in the pediatric ward when her phone vibrated. She read the incoming text from Nathan, got more details on the new supplier. They seemed genuine. Let me know if you need background info. A wave of gratitude washed over her. She typed back a quick reply, meeting them soon. Thank you for everything. She turned her attention back to the children, her spirits buoyed. Maybe the rain-soaked concert had served a greater purpose, bringing them to the attention of a more ethical partner. The thought carried her through the rest of the day. By early evening, she found herself standing outside a small office suite downtown, the address from Dr. Peterson's business card. Inside, a sleek but modest reception area greeted her. A nameplate read, Evergreen Pharma Solutions. A young woman at the front desk motioned for Jennifer to wait, so she took a seat, flipping through a pamphlet detailing the company's mission statement. Terms like affordable care and patient-centered approach dotted the page. It all seemed too good to be true. Shortly, a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair emerged from a corridor. Miss Williams, I'm Alan Rush, Regional Director. Nice to finally meet you. His handshake was firm but warm. I've heard about your work at the hospital. Jennifer followed him into a glass-walled conference room where they settled at a polished table. He pulled out a folder and began, We respect your stance against exclusive contracts that limit treatment options. We'd like to propose a different model, one that lowers costs for essential drugs, but still allows your doctors to source alternative medications if necessary. Her breath caught. That's exactly what we need, he nodded. We saw the news stories about your fundraiser. Real shame about the weather, but it showed your community spirit. That's the kind of partner we want. Jennifer listened carefully as he explained the financial details. While not a silver bullet solution, the plan could slash a significant portion of the hospital's medication expenses, freeing up funds for other urgent needs. They'd still have to raise money for equipment and specialized treatments, but this deal represented a crucial step forward. By the time she stepped back onto the sidewalk, the sky was clear and the air smelled faintly of flowers. She dialed Dr. Peterson with the good news, her voice trembling with relief. Then, as an afterthought, she texted Nathan, Meeting went well. Very promising. Couldn't have done this without your leads. Thank you. His reply was almost immediate. I'm glad to hear it. You deserve a break after all this. Later that night, Jennifer sat on her small balcony, gazing at the twinkling city lights. She savored a cup of tea, reflecting on the roller coaster of recent weeks. The open-air concert had seemed like a near disaster, yet it indirectly led to this breakthrough. As Dottie often said, sometimes blessings wore the disguise of misfortune. Still, she knew the journey wasn't over. The gala loomed, and with it the possibility of meeting influential donors. She also sensed that the hospital board would review the oncology program's budget soon, and if they weren't satisfied with the progress, cuts could still happen. But for now, she breathed in the mild air, comforted by a glimmer of optimism that tomorrow might be brighter. In the distance, thunder rumbled softly, a reminder of Charleston's fickle weather. But this time, Jennifer smiled, unafraid of the storm. She felt stronger, buoyed by a sense that with each challenge conquered, they inched closer to securing the ward's future. And in that victory, she found not just hope for her patients, but also a rekindled sense of purpose that warmed her heart like the promise of dawn. A few evenings later, the hospital's administrative wing bustled with activity as Jennifer, Dr. Peterson, and several staff members prepared for a crucial meeting with the hospital board. The corridor outside the conference room thrummed with tension. Large windows overlooked the parking lot, where dusk settled in streaks of gold and purple across the sky. Sarah emerged from the office printer, clutching a stack of fresh copies detailing their updated budget plan. "We'll give each board member one of these," she said, her tone hushed. "It shows the recent fundraising totals and the potential savings from Evergreen Pharma Solutions." Jennifer took the papers, scanning the neat columns. "We've come a long way, but is it enough for them?" Dr. Peterson appeared behind them. "Let's hope so. The board's main concern is sustainability. They don't want to keep funneling money into a program they believe might fail in the long run." Gritting her teeth, Jennifer stepped into the conference room, where a polished wooden table and a row of leather chairs awaited them. One by one, the board members arrived, some with polite smiles, others wearing inscrutable expressions. The chairwoman, a formidable woman named Miss Baldwin, called the session to order. As Jennifer began her presentation, an unexpected wave of calm spread through her. She recounted the fundraisers, the new pharmaceutical arrangement, and the upcoming gala. With each slide of her PowerPoint, photos of the open-air concert, children in the oncology ward, even preliminary sketches of the gala event, she watched the board members' faces. Some nodded in mild approval, others jotted down questions. When she finished, Ms. Baldwin folded her hands. "Ms. Williams, it's clear you and your team have worked tirelessly. However, our concern remains. Can these fundraisers deliver consistent, long-term support?" Jennifer took a steadying breath. "These events are part of a larger community engagement effort. We're building relationships with local businesses and philanthropic organizations. We're not just patching holes. We're laying a foundation for ongoing support." Another board member, Mr. Hawthorne, glanced at the numbers. "Evergreen's discount is helpful, but what if they decide to withdraw the offer later?" Dr. Peterson interjected. "The contract includes a multi-year rate lock. Even if they adjust prices later, we'll still be free to seek other suppliers." Ms. Baldwin exchanged a look with the other board members. "We need some time to discuss this. Thank you, Ms. Williams and Dr. Peterson." Jennifer's pulse hammered as they stepped out of the room. Now came the waiting game. Sarah murmured encouragement while Dr. Peterson offered a tight smile. They had done their best. The rest was out of their hands for the moment. Outside in the hallway, Jennifer checked her phone. A text from Nathan. "Board meeting tonight. Good luck. I'm rooting for you." She typed a quick reply. "Thanks. We just finished presenting." Fingers crossed. Setting the phone aside, she tried to quell the butterflies in her stomach. Later that evening, Miss Baldwin called them back into the conference room. The mood was quiet as each board member took their seat. Ms. Baldwin spoke first. "We've reviewed your proposal. While we remain cautious, we see promise in your initiatives. Thus, we are willing to grant the Pediatric Oncology Ward a provisional extension. You'll have additional time to prove the program's viability, especially with the gala event on the horizon." Jennifer sagged with relief, tears threatening to well in her eyes. Dr. Peterson squeezed her hand discreetly under the table. "Thank you, Ms. Baldwin. We won't let you down." After the meeting adjourned, Sarah practically danced with joy in the corridor. "We did it! We have breathing room." Jennifer managed to laugh, though exhaustion weighed on her. "Yes, but now the pressure's really on to make the gala a success." They headed outside, the warm night air hitting them like a gentle embrace. Dr. Peterson parted ways, promising to see them in the morning. Sarah offered to drive Jennifer home, but she declined, preferring to decompress alone. As she crossed the parking lot, her phone buzzed again. Nathan's voice came through when she answered. "So? How did it go?" "A provisional extension," she replied, her smile audible. "They're giving us more time." "That's amazing," he said softly. "You deserve it." She leaned against her car, gazing up at the starry sky. "I'm just relieved. But we still need a game changer at the gala. A big donation or two would really seal the deal." Nathan was quiet for a beat. "I'll see if I can help. Maybe I know someone who could make a significant contribution." Emotions swirled in Jennifer, gratitude, hope, and curiosity about Nathan's mysterious network of contacts. "That would be incredible. Thank you." They said their goodbyes, and as she slipped into the driver's seat, a fresh wave of resolve surged through her. The board had spared the ward for now, but the final test would come at the gala. She needed to transform all their goodwill and momentum into tangible support. Sitting in the darkness, she reflected on how far she'd come from that night on the roadside. A simple nurse with a broken-down Chevrolet, stopping to help a stranger in the rain. Since then, her world had expanded to include new allies, daunting obstacles, and a cause that transcended her personal grief. The next phase loomed like a mountain peak, steep, intimidating, yet within reach if she could muster the courage and the faith to climb. A sultry Charleston evening settled over the waterfront property that had been transformed into an elegant gala venue. Rows of lanterns illuminated the manicured lawns, and the soft murmur of waves from the nearby harbor lent a subdued ambience to the bustle of attendees arriving in cars both modest and luxurious. Jennifer Williams stood beneath a white arch at the entrance, smoothing the front of her simple but tasteful navy blue dress. She felt worlds away from her usual scrubs, and a tremor of anticipation coursed through her. "How are you feeling?" Sarah asked. Stepping up in a flowing burgundy gown, she handed Jennifer a clipboard containing final details, a list of VIP guests, seating charts, and the evening schedule. Jennifer swallowed hard, nervous. This gala needs to be a triumph. If we don't secure substantial donations tonight, the board might still shut down the oncology program. Sarah offered a reassuring smile. "Well, it's off to a good start. People are arriving. The string quartet sounds lovely, and I spotted some local TV reporters setting up near the entrance. This could be our big moment." Nearby, Dr. Peterson greeted arriving donors, exuding a polite confidence that belied the tension simmering beneath. Dottie Evans, dressed in her Sunday finest, supervised a silent auction area arranged with donated artwork, vacation packages, and even a few collectibles from private donors. The hum of polite conversation mingled with the gentle notes of violins, all underscoring just how high the stakes were tonight. A flashbulb popped as a photographer snapped a shot of Jennifer and Sarah. Beyond the camera's glare, Jennifer glimpsed Nathan Pierce entering the venue. He wore a tailored suit that, while understated, did nothing to hide his poised demeanor. Their eyes met briefly, his conveying a hint of encouragement. She approached him as soon as she was free. "You came?" she said, unable to hide her relief. Nathan's small smile held warmth, but also a trace of tension. "I wouldn't miss it. Remember, I promised to see if I could bring someone who might help. He's here, an investor I've known for years." "Name's Marcus Browning." Jennifer's heart leapt. "Investor? Is he philanthropic?" Nathan nodded. "He has a history of funding medical research. Let's just say, if he likes what he sees tonight, he could be a major contributor." She exhaled in a rush. "Thank you, Nathan. I don't know how we'd have pulled all of this off without your connections." He gave a dismissive shrug, but genuine pride flickered in his eyes. "You did the heavy lifting. I just opened a few doors." They moved together through clusters of guests, ensuring everyone felt welcomed. Each handshake and introduction was laced with quiet pleas for support. Jennifer fought back waves of anxiety, recalling the board's warning, "Impress us, or the program folds." Shortly, Marcus Browning himself approached, a tall, broad-shouldered man with salt and pepper hair. Nathan made the introductions, and Jennifer launched into the story of Charleston Community Hospital's pediatric oncology ward, the children's courage, the staff's devotion, and the precarious financial position that threatened to unravel it all. Browning listened with polite attentiveness, his expression guarded. "Commendable cause," he said when she finished, "but philanthropy is often about ensuring funds are used efficiently." "How do I know your hospital can deliver lasting impact?" Jennifer's pulse pounded. "It won't be a quick fix, but we have new partnerships forming, like with Evergreen Pharma, and a board that's finally supporting our fundraising initiatives. This community has rallied behind the hospital, and I believe we can do more if we have a solid investment." Nathan chimed in gently. "I trust Jennifer's leadership and the hospital's direction. If it fails, I'll shoulder the responsibility myself." Marcus gave Nathan a scrutinizing look, as though assessing his intent. "That's quite a statement." A slight tension creased Nathan's brow before he replied, "I believe in the cause." Marcus merely nodded, letting the conversation pause. Jennifer sensed a hint of skepticism, yet there was also curiosity in his gaze. "I'll keep my eyes open tonight," he said at last. "Let's see how you present the ward's story." With that, he left them, seamlessly blending into the crowd. Jennifer clenched her clipboard, nerves thrumming. "He didn't say no," she murmured, forcing positivity into her voice. Nathan placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "There's still time. Let's make sure he sees the best of what we're doing." Moments later, the program began. Soft lights dimmed, and the string quartet eased into a new tune. Dr. Peterson took the stage, welcoming everyone and thanking them for their presence. He explained the hospital's mission with a polished sincerity, then invited Jennifer up to offer a personal perspective. Her pulse hammered as she approached the podium. Taking a steadying breath, she scanned the audience, the swirl of suits and gowns, the glimmer of jewelry, the hush of conversation ceasing. She spoke about her father's fight for care, about the children she watched bravely endure chemo. She shared the uplifting moments, like Christopher's vow to someday play music publicly, and the heartbreak when some families left the ward with no answers. The hush grew profound as she paused to collect herself. "This cause isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet," she concluded, her voice quavering with passion. "It's about giving children their best chance at life. I ask you tonight not just for donations, but for faith. Faith that with your support, we can build a future without turning away even one child." Thunderous applause erupted, echoing against the vaulted ceiling. Jennifer stepped off the stage with trembling knees, though relief coursed through her. She felt a rush of gratitude when Sarah squeezed her hand and Dottie dabbed at her eyes. Catching sight of Marcus Browning's restrained nod, she clung to the hope that her words had left a mark. But even as the audience's clapping subsided, Jennifer knew this was only the beginning. The night loomed long, with conversations, pledges, and whispered negotiations yet to come. This was the grand confrontation, her chance to fight for the ward she loved, face to face with the donors who could save it or let it die. An hour later, the gala was in full swing. Guests flitted between the silent auction tables and the bar, sampling gourmet hors d'oeuvres as the quartet provided a gentle musical backdrop. Jennifer circulated, exchanging pleasantries and repeating the hospital's story. Every conversation felt like a delicate dance between hope and desperation. At the silent auction area, she spotted Dottie guiding an elderly couple who were admiring a painting donated by a local artist. Dr. Peterson was locked in discussion with a city council member, presumably seeking municipal grants. Nearby, Sarah demonstrated her practiced charm while chatting with a group from the local Rotary Club. In the midst of this orchestrated chaos, Jennifer slipped momentarily to a quieter corner, craving a breather. She could still see the swirling crowd, but the noise felt muted here. So many faces blurred together, each representing the potential of a new donation or, just as easily, an indifferent pat on the back. She closed her eyes, forcing herself to inhale slowly. "Need a moment." Nathan's voice, quiet and reassuring, intruded gently. She turned to see him approaching with 2 glasses of water. Handing one to her, he offered a small smile. "You're doing great out there." She sipped, letting the cool liquid calm her nerves. "I hope so. It's hard to judge. Browning hasn't given me any hint yet whether he's interested in a major donation." Nathan glanced around, then lowered his voice. "He's a tough nut to crack. But don't take it personally. He's built his empire by analyzing every angle. When he invests, he does so carefully and significantly." Jennifer traced the rim of her glass, hesitating. "Nathan, there's something I need to ask." She couldn't ignore the swirl of half-formed suspicions that had been gathering for weeks. "You said you'd shoulder the responsibility yourself if this fails. That's a big claim for a salesman. How exactly are you planning to do that?" For a fraction of a second, guilt flashed in his eyes. Then he tensed, as though bracing himself. "Let's just say I have resources. I was traveling incognito when we met, hoping to find something real. I didn't intend to deceive you." Her pulse hammered. She sensed that the truth hovered just beyond his words, a confession waiting to be voiced. Before she could press further, the sound of a microphone tapping cut through the air. Dr. Peterson was asking for everyone's attention once more. Nathan exhaled, raking a hand through his hair. "We'll talk soon," he promised, darting a quick, uneasy glance at Jennifer before walking away. Heart pounding, she rejoined the crowd. Dr. Peterson introduced the highlight of the evening, a live pledge session, where donors could publicly announce their support for the pediatric oncology ward. A hush fell over the guests as a few individuals raised their hands, offering sums that garnered appreciative applause. A local businessman pledged $5,000. A retired physician's foundation promised $10,000. Miranda, the bakery owner, declared a year-long sponsorship. Each new contribution built on the mounting excitement, but Jennifer knew they needed more, a singular, game-changing pledge that could ensure the ward's future beyond a few months. Marcus Browning stepped forward at last, microphone in hand. The buzz in the room swelled. He cast a measured gaze around the audience. "I've had the privilege of speaking with Ms. Williams and Dr. Peterson, he began. Their dedication is impressive. More importantly, I see a community determined to support its hospital. That kind of unity is rare. Jennifer held her breath, hands clenched so tightly she felt her nails dig into her palms. That's why, Marcus continued, voice deep, my investment group and I will commit $100,000 toward the expansion and improvement of the pediatric oncology ward at Charleston Community Hospital. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Applause broke out, scattered at first, then thunderous. Jennifer felt tears burn behind her eyes. 100,000 wasn't the entire solution. Running the ward long-term required more than that. But it was a phenomenal donation that could validate their cause, opening doors to other major contributors. She rushed over to Marcus as soon as he stepped off the small stage. "Thank you," she managed, voice trembling. "This is incredible." He studied her with a reserved smile. "Your passion convinced me, along with some persuasive words from Nathan here." He nodded over her shoulder. Jennifer turned to see Nathan standing close by, wearing an expression of relief. Marcus gave a curt nod and moved on to speak with Dr. Peterson. The applause subsided, and the gala continued. Jennifer felt adrift in a sea of emotions, gratitude, astonishment, and a stirring confusion about Nathan. His role in sealing that massive donation was undeniable. If he had such sway with Browning, then who exactly was he? She found him by the silent auction table, gazing at a framed portrait of a low-country marsh at sunrise. When he sensed her presence, he turned, a question in his eyes. "That was," she began, words momentarily failing her. "I can't thank you enough for bringing Browning here." Nathan set the glass he'd been holding on the table. "I'm glad it helped." "Why didn't you tell me sooner about your connections?" "About who you really are," the words tumbled out, a mixture of hurt and curiosity. He opened his mouth to respond, but the look in his eyes said he knew this was neither the time nor place for a proper explanation. Instead, he murmured, "I made a promise to myself that I'd stay under the radar. I never expected to meet someone like you. We'll talk, truly, just not here." Uncertainty swirled in Jennifer's heart. She forced a nod, reminding herself that the ward's future was the priority. "All right, after tonight, we'll talk." Nathan reached for her hand, giving it a brief, reassuring squeeze. In that fleeting contact, she felt a subtle exchange of understanding. Despite the secrets, they shared something genuine. Then, as more donors approached, they let go. She turned to greet the next wave of well-wishers, determined to remain composed. Tomorrow would bring new questions, perhaps new revelations. For now, they had won a hard-fought victory, a financial lifeline for the children. Yet beneath that triumph, an even more personal conflict simmered, awaiting its moment to demand answers. Daylight filtered through Jennifer's apartment windows the following morning, revealing the aftermath of a triumphant yet exhausting night. Her dress hung limply over a chair, and a stack of donor pledge forms lay scattered across her small dining table. She sipped coffee, reviewing the notes in a dazed sense of disbelief. Between Browning's pledge and numerous smaller contributions, the gala had raised a remarkable sum, enough to satisfy the hospital board that the pediatric oncology ward deserved to continue. Her phone chimed. It was Sarah. "Great news. Board thrilled. Doctor P wants a meeting tomorrow to plan next steps." A surge of happiness coursed through Jennifer. They had done it. The program wasn't just saved for the short term, it had real momentum to grow. Yet, as she rinsed her coffee mug, her thoughts drifted inevitably to Nathan. He hadn't stayed long after Browning's announcement. One moment they were celebrating, the next he had quietly slipped out, leaving behind only the promise of a real conversation. Today, she intended to hold him to it. The swirling questions demanded resolution. Why the secrecy? How deep do his resources run? And perhaps most pressing, are his feelings, whatever they are, genuine? Late morning found her at the hospital, checking on patients who were, unbeknownst to them, the primary beneficiaries of last night's victory. Christopher, bright-eyed despite his treatments, greeted her with an enthusiastic wave. "My mom says the hospital is getting new equipment soon. Is that true?" A warmth spread in Jennifer's chest. "Yes, buddy. We're going to improve the ward and bring in better technology to help kids like you get better faster." He beamed. "Then I can go home sooner, right?" Her heart clenched with emotion. "That's the plan." After a quick chat with Dr. Peterson about the board's positive response, Jennifer stepped outside for lunch, finding Nathan waiting near the hospital entrance. He wore jeans and a polo shirt, looking decidedly more casual than at the gala, yet still carrying that air of subdued confidence. He offered a tentative smile. "Mind if we walk?" he asked quietly. She nodded, matching his pace as they navigated the hospital grounds. The day was mild, a gentle breeze rustling the leaves. It felt like the city itself had taken a calming breath after the intense build-up to the gala. They reached a small bench under a live oak tree. Sitting down, Jennifer faced him. "I'm listening." Nathan took a long moment, studying the shifting shadows on the grass. Finally, he began, "My real name is Nathan Pierce. I inherited a significant fortune in my 20s. Over the years, I got surrounded by insincerity, people who wanted me around only for my status or money. I felt trapped in a world of false smiles, meaningless parties, and endless expectations." He paused, as though the memories themselves were heavy. "So I left. I dressed down, took an old car, and traveled the country. I wanted to see if I could find places and people that mattered, not because of what I owned, but because of who I was." Jennifer absorbed his words, recalling the first night they met on that rainy road. He'd looked so unassuming, yet there had been a quiet dignity about him. "So everything, your story about being a traveling salesman, was a cover." He exhaled. "I did have some business experience, so it wasn't a complete lie, but I never told you I was a billionaire. I was afraid you'd treat me differently." Her heart twisted with conflicted emotions. "You let me think you were an ordinary man needing help." "Because I did need help," he said softly, meeting her gaze. "Not with a flat tire, but with understanding if true kindness still exists without a price tag attached." She mulled over that, the sting of his secrecy battling with empathy for his loneliness. "You could have told me once we became friends." He nodded, pain flickering in his eyes. "I wanted to, many times, but the longer I waited, the harder it became. I worried you'd feel betrayed." Silence stretched between them. A pair of sparrows hopped near the bench, untroubled by human dilemmas. Finally, Jennifer broke the quiet. "I'm hurt you didn't trust me, but I also understand why you hid. This place you found, the hospital, the children, it's all real." His shoulders relaxed, relief mingling with regret. "I never meant to mislead you about my intentions. Everything I did, the phone calls, the donations, the leads, was because I care about saving that ward. And he added more softly, because I care about you." A surge of warmth offset the chill of doubt. She believed him. Somehow, through the swirl of half-truths, the sincerity in his eyes felt undeniable. "We've come this far together," she said, voice trembling with emotion. "I want to move forward, but it has to be honest. No more secrets." He reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "No more secrets," he echoed, voice thick with earnestness. They stayed like that for a moment, the hospital looming behind them, a testament to the battles they had fought and those yet to come. This was a turning point. Two people from disparate worlds, forging a connection that transcended wealth, status, and the deceptions of the past. And as Jennifer gazed into Nathan's eyes, she realized that her own transformation mirrored the ward's survival story, a testament to hope, perseverance, and the simple, undeniable power of genuine human connection. The morning sun gilded the renovated entrance of Charleston Community Hospital, reflecting the promise of a new chapter for the pediatric oncology ward. Workers bustled about, installing a large, colorful sign that read "Children's Hope Wing," sponsored by the community. Jennifer paused in the hallway, listening to the hum of construction tools and the distant laughter of children. Even with the bustle, she felt a sense of calm purpose. Funds from the gala and Marcus Browning's pledge had jump-started renovations, ensuring updated chemotherapy stations and advanced imaging equipment. It was more than she'd ever dared hope for. Sarah approached, clipboard in hand. "We've got a meeting at 10 with the project manager about the new infusion chairs. Then Dr. Peterson wants us to finalize staff training schedules for the updated equipment." Jennifer laughed, a lightness in her voice. "I never imagined I'd be excited about staff training, but hey, progress." They exchanged a pleased grin, remembering the hard-fought battle to get here. Their conversation was interrupted by the echo of footsteps. Dottie arrived, carrying a batch of crocheted blankets under one arm. "These are for the new chairs, so the kids can feel cozy," Dottie explained, her grey hair bouncing as she walked. "It's amazing how quickly things are changing around here." Her words resonated with Jennifer. Change was everywhere, both in the hospital corridors and in her own life. After learning Nathan's full story, she felt a renewed closeness to him. Though lingering doubts sometimes flickered, she'd chosen to trust him. And he seemed determined to prove that trust wasn't misplaced, appearing daily to lend a hand wherever needed. At noon, Jennifer took a short break and headed outside for a breath of fresh air. To her surprise, Nathan was already there, leaning against a wall in casual slacks and a button-down shirt, chatting with a few hospital volunteers. He spotted Jennifer and excused himself. "Figured you'd be busy with all the renovations," he teased gently. "Ready for lunch?" She nodded with a grateful smile. They walked to a nearby bench, sharing a simple meal from the hospital cafe. Between bites of a turkey sandwich, she noticed him scanning the courtyard thoughtfully. "What's on your mind?" "I've been thinking about the grand opening for the new wing," he said. "Dr. Peterson wants to hold a dedication ceremony in a few weeks. It'll be a big event. Board members, donors, staff. He asked me to be a guest speaker." Jennifer studied his face, catching a glimmer of unease. "Do you want to do it?" He shrugged. "I'm not great at public speeches. But if it helps raise ongoing support and show everyone I'm serious about this place, maybe it's time to step into the light, so to speak." Her heart squeezed at the thought of him stepping out of anonymity. It'll be a big reveal. Nathan Pierce, the billionaire who's been incognito in Charleston. The press might swarm you. A small smile tugged at his lips. "Let them. I'm done hiding. If we keep the kids at the center of the story, it'll be okay." She squeezed his hand. "Then do it. We'll face any fallout together." After lunch, they parted ways. Nathan off to meet with donors, Jennifer to finalize staff training plans. At 2 o'clock, she found herself in the hospital's newly established administrative suite, where Dr. Peterson supervised the flurry of activity around a set of brand-new conference rooms. The director greeted her with news. "The board wants to ensure the gala funds are allocated properly. They're scheduling an inspection next week. We need to document every purchase and upgrade." Jennifer brushed a stray hair behind her ear, a surge of confidence driving her. "I'll get right on it. We have the receipts and proposals. They can see exactly how the money's being spent. Dr. Peterson allowed himself a small chuckle. I'm still amazed at how far we've come. A few months ago, we were on the brink of closure. They reviewed timelines, budgets, and staffing needs, the once overwhelming tasks now feeling almost routine. When they were done, Jennifer headed to the ward to check on Christopher. She found him coloring in bed, sporting a mischievous grin. "Guess what?" he said excitedly. "Nurse Sarah told me we might get a special therapy dog program soon." Jennifer laughed, delight lighting her face. "That's right. A local organization offered to bring trained dogs to visit you guys." "Dogs?" He clapped his hands. "That would be so cool." She ruffled his hair. The spark in his eyes reminded her of how vital this entire endeavor was. The fancy galas, big donations, and press coverage, they all boiled down to children like Christopher having hope, comfort, and a fighting chance. As the afternoon waned, Jennifer walked past the half-painted walls and newly arrived equipment boxes, a sense of culmination building within her. They were close to fulfilling the vision she'd once dared only to dream about. Yet she knew the final confrontation still lay ahead, a personal and public reckoning at the dedication ceremony, where secrets would be laid bare and the ward's future would be on full display. She inhaled deeply, letting anticipation fuel her resolve. The threads of her life, her father's memory, her promise to the children, her growing bond with Nathan, were converging into one final push for lasting change. For the first time, she felt ready to embrace everything that awaited, her heart brimming with cautious hope. 2 weeks passed in a flurry of final renovations, staff training sessions, and meticulously organized records. At last, the day of the dedication ceremony dawned bright, the early sun illuminating a large outdoor canopy set up in front of the newly named Children's Hope Wing. Balloons in cheerful colors bounced in the breeze, while a modest stage faced rows of folding chairs reserved for donors, hospital staff, and families. Jennifer arrived early, wearing a simple but elegant blouse and skirt, an ID badge pinned to her collar. As she made sure the stage microphone was functioning, she glanced at the seats slowly filling with well-wishers. Familiar faces appeared: Dottie, Sarah, Dr. Peterson, and a handful of board members. Even a local news crew hovered at the perimeter. She spotted Nathan, standing off to the side with Marcus Browning. Nathan caught her eye, a small, reassuring smile curving his lips. Indeed, today he would step into the public realm, revealing himself not as a humble salesman, but as a man of significant influence, a man who had chosen to use his resources for a cause far more genuine than the hollow extravagances of his old world. At 10 o'clock sharp, Dr. Peterson took the podium, welcoming the crowd and recounting the hospital's journey from near defeat to this celebratory moment. Polite applause followed. Then came Miss Baldwin, the board chairwoman, to speak about responsible governance and the hospital's newly charted course. She ended with a pointed remark: "All of this progress was made possible by the dedication of our staff and the generosity of many in this community, including one individual whose story has surprised us all." Jennifer's heart sped up, realizing it was time for Nathan's long-awaited public introduction. As Ms. Baldwin stepped aside, he approached the mic, pausing to survey the crowd. A hush settled, and cameras rose, capturing every angle of this moment. "My name is Nathan Pierce," he began quietly. "Some of you know me as a wandering stranger with a flat tire. Others might only see the headlines describing me as a wealthy investor. The truth is, I came here seeking something real, human kindness, genuine purpose. And I found it, right here in the hallways of this hospital, in the hearts of the nurses, doctors, volunteers, and especially the children who fight battles most adults can't imagine." He paused, voice taut with emotion. I've chosen to sponsor and support the Children's Hope Wing because I believe in second chances. Not just for the kids, but for all of us. An opportunity to do something meaningful with our resources, our time and our talents. Applause erupted, cameras clicking furiously. Jennifer stood near the stage, tears pricking her eyes, recalling the night she'd met him in the pouring rain, never guessing how intertwined their lives would become. Nathan concluded, "This new wing stands as a testament to what a community can achieve when it comes together." "I'm honored to be part of that," the audience roared approval, and a wave of relief mingled with pride surged through Jennifer. He had stepped forward in truth, and the crowd embraced him for it. More importantly, the focus remained on the children's future, a future now secured by the unwavering commitment they had forged together. After the speeches, children from the ward participated in a ribbon-cutting ceremony, each gripping a pair of oversized scissors to snip the bright ribbon crossing the entrance. Laughter and camera flashes filled the moment. Once inside, guests explored the sparkling new therapy rooms, infusion stations, and a cheerful play area. A swirl of reporters descended on Nathan, peppering him with questions about his life and reasons for anonymity. He answered politely, deflecting the spotlight onto the hospital's dedicated team. Jennifer couldn't help but admire how gracefully he handled the sudden storm of attention. Once the crowd dispersed, Jennifer found Nathan in one of the freshly painted corridors, running a hand over a mural of colorful handprints created by young patients. She touched his shoulder gently. "You were incredible out there." He turned, relief evident in his expression. "It's a relief to finally be honest. Feels like I can breathe freely." She laced her fingers through his. The mural's bright handprints a symbol of the lives they were helping. "I'm proud of you, of us. We did it." They walked side by side, occasionally stopping to greet donors, staff, or families. Each encounter reinforced the feeling that they stood at the culmination of a shared journey, one that tested their moral convictions, demanded sacrifices, and ultimately rewarded them with something deeper than either had anticipated. A sense of genuine community and, for them personally, a bond that transcended the boundaries of status and secrecy. Near the end of the day, Dr. Peterson ushered them into a quiet corner of the new wing. He extended a hand to Nathan. "On behalf of this hospital, thank you for believing in us. And Jennifer," he turned to her with a soft smile, "thank you for never giving up." The moment felt almost surreal. Jennifer thought of her father, whose memory had kindled her compassion. She thought of Christopher, who now had access to cutting-edge treatments. And she thought of Nathan, whose hidden wealth once masked a genuine heart. Their journeys had merged into one. "Now, Dr. Peterson continued, "let's keep building on this momentum. We have a ward to run." Jennifer and Nathan exchanged a grin. Their final ordeal had been faced, the largest obstacles overcome. Yet, in this ultimate test, they discovered that real reward came in the countless lives touched, in the forging of trust, and in the knowledge that love, whether for a cause, a community, or each other, could move mountains. Warm morning light filtered through the windows of the newly inaugurated Children's Hope Wing. The fresh paint smell had gradually faded, replaced by the pleasant aroma of new furniture and the faint scent of flowers donated by grateful families. As Jennifer Williams stepped through the entrance, she paused to take in the familiar corridor, a place where, not so long ago, she had walked with dread of possible closures. Now, the ward pulsed with life and hope. Nurses bustled about, smiling as they wheeled in new equipment. Children, some in wheelchairs and others lightly tethered by IV lines, peered curiously at the colorful decorations. Therapy dogs, part of a new volunteer program, trotted around, bringing wagging tails and wide-eyed excitement. Jennifer exchanged friendly waves with Dr. Peterson, who was outlining the day's schedule at the nurses' station. The ward felt different now, although the work remained challenging. That old sense of imminent catastrophe had lifted, replaced by an optimism she found almost surreal. Sarah approached, balancing a stack of folders brimming with updated protocols for experimental treatments. "We've got 3 pediatric trials starting soon," she said. "It's incredible how quickly things are moving." Jennifer nodded. "I never imagined we'd secure these resources so soon. The new donors, plus the partnerships we formed, it feels like a dream." Sarah grinned. "It's more than a dream. This is what we fought for." A call over the intercom summoned them to check on Christopher, who was about to start his next therapy session. They hurried to his room, finding him scribbling bright marker doodles on a large sketch pad. He looked up with a toothy grin. "Did you see the new infusion chairs? They're squishy and don't make my back hurt as much." "That was the goal," Jennifer said, ruffling his hair. "We want you comfy while you get strong." His mother stood by the window, relief etched into every line of her face. "I can't thank you all enough," she whispered. "Christopher's responded better to this new medication than we ever hoped." The warmth of the praise filled Jennifer's chest. She recalled the dozens of nights spent worrying if these children would even have treatment options. Now, real possibilities shone before them. After tending to Christopher, Jennifer headed to her small office near the ward, a space she shared with Sarah. There, a new photograph hung on the wall, a snapshot from the dedication ceremony. In it, a cluster of children surrounded Jennifer and Nathan, arms raised in celebration. Jennifer found herself often glancing at that image, her life caught in a moment of pure, unguarded joy. Thoughts of Nathan floated through her mind as she shuffled paperwork. They had reached a new depth of understanding since his public reveal. No more secrets or hidden agendas. Instead, he had become a fixture not just in the hospital's philanthropic efforts, but in her daily routine. They supported each other in the difficult moments and celebrated every small victory together. She felt her phone vibrate, a text from Nathan. "Meet for lunch outside the hospital. Weather's perfect." A soft smile curved her lips. He had grown fond of casual lunches with the staff, joking that they grounded him better than any corporate retreat ever could. At noon, she slipped out to find him waiting by a bench under an ancient live oak on the hospital grounds. 2 takeout containers sat on a picnic blanket, courtesy of a local deli that now supported the hospital with discounted meals. He stood as she approached, greeting her with a playful bow. "Milady," he teased, opening one of the containers to reveal fresh sandwiches and fruit. She settled beside him, exhaling contentedly. "Feels like everything's changed so quickly," she said, biting into her sandwich. "In a matter of months, we went from on the brink of losing the ward to this hive of new possibilities." Nathan's gaze was warm. "You made it happen, Jennifer. Your persistence lit the spark that everyone else followed." The compliment made her cheeks flush. "I didn't do it alone. We had a community of people who cared, and you became the catalyst we needed." He brushed off the praise with a gentle smile. "I think we needed each other. I was searching for something genuine. You showed me what that looked like." They ate quietly for a few minutes, allowing the rustle of leaves and distant laughter of children to fill the silence. Finally, Nathan spoke up. "Dr. Peterson invited me to help set up a scholarship fund for nursing students. He says we could name it after your father, if you'd like." Jennifer's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, she couldn't speak, tears pricking her eyes. A wave of emotions rose, memories of her father's final weeks and the promise she made to care for others as she had cared for him. "I'd love that," she managed, voice trembling. "He always wanted more compassionate caregivers in this world. It would be an honor." Nathan gently reached for her hand, and she squeezed back in gratitude. They sat there, the hospital behind them, the future sprawling ahead, a tapestry of renewed hope, healing, and dreams yet to be fulfilled. And in the softness of that moment, Jennifer realized that through every challenge, every doubt, she had arrived at a place where her heart felt truly at peace. 2 weeks later, Jennifer parked her old Chevrolet outside a small suburban house in a modest Charleston neighborhood. She stepped out, taking in the neat lawn and the wind chimes tinkling by the door. It was her childhood home, once her father's refuge, now hers in probate. The mortgage had been a constant worry, but with the new hospital salary adjustments and a financial gift from Nathan's scholarship project, she could finally stabilize it. She paused at the threshold, heart fluttering with memories of the day she first left for nursing school, her father waving goodbye with teary pride. Entering the living room, she found the space exactly as she'd left it. An old recliner, faded family photos lining the walls, and stacks of yellowed magazines scattered about. Dust motes spun lazily in beams of afternoon sun. Sarah's car pulled up shortly after B, and she entered with an energetic wave. "Ready for some spring cleaning?" she asked, a grin on her face. Jennifer laughed, relieved not to do this alone. "I need it. Haven't had the courage to go through Dad's belongings until now." They spent the next couple of hours sorting boxes, reminiscing over photos, and discarding items neither of them recognized. Jennifer stumbled upon a worn-out journal with her father's handwriting, pages filled with advice, stories from his youth, and aspirations for Jennifer's future. She read a passage aloud. "I've always believed Jenny has the biggest heart. She'll heal people in ways science alone can't. If she ever forgets her worth, I hope someone reminds her." Tears welled in Jennifer's eyes, but a smile formed too. It felt as though her father was speaking directly to her, acknowledging the winding path she'd taken since his passing. Sarah squeezed her shoulder, offering silent comfort. After finishing the main rooms, they tackled the garage, rummaging through dusty boxes until they stumbled upon an old trunk. Inside lay a collection of her father's keepsakes, a stethoscope from his brief time as a medical assistant in the army, letters of gratitude from patients he'd helped, and a small medal of service. Sarah gently picked up the stethoscope. "I had no idea your dad had medical training." Jennifer nodded, recalling half-remembered stories. "He gave it up when finances got tight, but he always admired the healing profession. Maybe that's why he pushed me so hard toward nursing, even when we couldn't afford the textbooks." Sarah set down the stethoscope reverently. "He'd be proud to see what you've done for the hospital and what's happening with the Children's Hope Wing." Jennifer's gaze drifted to the trunk's corner where a dusty photograph showed her father in uniform, smiling wide. "Sometimes I wish he could see it in person," she said softly. "But maybe he does, somehow." They finished tidying just as dusk settled, the golden light spilling through the garage's open door. Slipping the journal and stethoscope into a bag, keepsakes too precious to discard, Jennifer felt her heart grow lighter. This house, once a haunting reminder of debt and loss, now seemed like an anchor for treasured memories, a place she could revisit without the sting of regret. Before leaving, Sarah paused in the doorway, her arms full of items to donate. "You know, Jen, you've changed a lot since we started this journey. You're more confident, more whole, I guess." Jennifer exhaled, reflecting on her evolution. She used to measure her days in unpaid bills and the fear of failing her patients. Now she saw milestones in saved lives, in community outreach, in new partnerships forged on compassion rather than desperation. The sense of looming crisis had receded, replaced by a calm resolution that she could handle life's hurdles, no matter how tall. Locking up the house, she felt a pang of nostalgia but also relief. The transformation she'd undergone mirrored the hospital's own revival. Both had been perched on a precipice, uncertain of survival. Both had emerged stronger, defined by compassion, teamwork, and unwavering resilience. As they drove away, Jennifer glanced in the rearview mirror one last time. The small suburban house stood dignified against the twilight sky, an emblem of the past she once feared, now embraced as part of her journey. She whispered a silent thank you to her father's memory, promising him that she would carry his legacy forward with pride, ready to face whatever came next. The next day, Jennifer found herself standing at a podium in a modest auditorium on the local college campus. A mix of nursing students, faculty, and community members listened raptly as she spoke about her experiences at Charleston Community Hospital. Dottie sat in the front row, beaming with pride, while a handful of the hospital staff and volunteers filled the seats behind her. "Never underestimate the power of a compassionate heart," Jennifer said, her tone resonant in the hush. "That might sound like a cliché, but trust me, moments of genuine care can save lives in ways you'd never predict." She paused, letting her words settle. On the projector screen, a slideshow played images of the Children's Hope Wing, newly refurbished patient rooms, smiling children with therapy dogs, and staff members wielding advanced medical equipment. Each slide was a chapter of the hospital's resurrection story. "My father once believed that even a single nurse's empathy could light a spark that would transform the entire ward," she continued, swallowing a sudden lump in her throat. "He was right. We faced severe funding cuts and had little hope, but we chose to believe in community, in each other, and in every child's worth. That belief carried us through the storm." Applause swelled as she finished. Stepping away from the podium, she welcomed questions. One student raised her hand. "Ms. Williams, how did you rally so many people to your cause? I mean, donors, volunteers, you brought them all together." Jennifer offered a reflective smile. "I think it started with honesty and vulnerability. We weren't afraid to show our struggles and plead our case, and once people realized how urgent the situation was, they felt compelled to help. It also took perseverance, countless phone calls, meetings, fundraisers, but mostly it was about showing genuine gratitude for every little bit of support." Dottie gave an enthusiastic nod, recalling the rummage sales, radio interviews, and last-minute weather disasters they'd endured. Another student asked about the scholarship program named in memory of Jennifer's father. She spoke with an emotional tremor in her voice, explaining how it would support aspiring nurses who believed wholeheartedly in patient-centered care. After the Q&A ended, many attendees lined up to speak with Jennifer personally. She shook their hands, accepted hugs, and heard various versions of "You've inspired me." Her cheeks flushed with a mixture of pride and humility. Less than a year ago, she'd been drowning in financial woes and hospital politics. Now, she was seen as a guiding light for a new generation of healthcare professionals. Nathan appeared quietly at the side of the stage, wearing a subtle smile. Once the crowd thinned, he approached, handing her a bottle of water. "I'm always impressed by how naturally you speak to people," he said. "You connect with them in such a heartfelt way." She sipped the water, her own smile warm. "It's funny. Before all this, I was never the one to seek the spotlight. But the cause demanded it, and now I kind of love sharing our story." They walked together out of the auditorium and into a small courtyard framed by blooming crepe myrtle trees. Students milled around, discussing the lecture with animated gestures. Dottie caught up to them, practically glowing. "That was marvelous, my dear. You've come a long way from the shy nurse who used to bury herself in patient charts." Jennifer laughed softly, remembering how she once avoided any leadership role, content just to do her job. "I guess adversity pushes us to find strength we didn't know we had." Dottie patted her hand. "And now you're passing that strength on to others." That's the true measure of legacy, how many lives you inspire to keep fighting the good fight. They made their way toward the parking lot, the afternoon sun painting their shadows long against the sidewalk. A gentle wind carried the scent of magnolia blossoms, and Jennifer felt a wave of peaceful satisfaction. The urgent fear that once ruled her days had given way to a steady resolve. The hospital was secure for now, and she was helping shape the future of nursing in her community. As they neared their cars, Nathan paused. "Jennifer, I've been thinking maybe we could do more college visits like this, or even expand the scholarship program. There are plenty of rural areas struggling just like Charleston did." Her eyes lit with agreement. "I'd love that. We can't stop just because our ward is stable. There are kids all over who need advocates and caregivers with the right training and compassion." They shared a look, an unspoken understanding that their collaboration was only beginning. Where once they had fought to survive a crisis, now they were building a foundation for others to stand on. And in that shared purpose, they found a sense of fulfillment deeper than any personal ambition could provide. A gentle drizzle fell over the courtyard of the Children's Hope Wing one late afternoon, casting a soft sheen on the newly planted flower beds. Despite the light rain, Jennifer stood outside, gazing at a cheerful rainbow that arced over the hospital rooftops. The campus, once threatened by financial ruin, now thrived with philanthropic energy and a robust treatment program. Every corner seemed touched by generosity and hope. She heard laughter from behind her. Turning, she saw a small group of children, fresh from a therapy session, giggling as they held out their palms to catch raindrops. Sarah accompanied them, guiding them back inside before the rain intensified. Jennifer felt a pang of happiness. This was the future she had envisioned, children unburdened by fear, living moments of joy while receiving care. A moment later, Nathan joined her, slipping a light jacket over her shoulders to shield her from the damp. "You'll catch a cold," he teased, though his voice held tenderness. She snuggled into the jacket. "Thanks." Her eyes drifted again to the rainbow. "I was just thinking about how symbolic this feels. We weathered the worst storms and found a bit of light at the end." Nathan nodded, sliding an arm around her. They stood together in companionable silence, the hiss of gentle rain weaving around them. "Finally," he said, "I got word that Marcus Browning wants to invest further in pediatric research. He's impressed by how the community rallied here. It could mean expanding the program's reach beyond Charleston." Jennifer's heart fluttered with excitement. "That's amazing. All these kids, maybe we can help more of them beyond just our local ward." They exchanged a look full of promise, as though the horizon of possibilities had grown infinitely larger. Then Sarah peeked out the door, calling them in for a small staff celebration, the last official item on the day's agenda. Inside, the break room was transformed with balloons, a homemade cake, and a big banner reading, "Thank you, team." Dottie was busy cutting slices of cake, while Dr. Peterson popped open a bottle of sparkling cider. Nurses, volunteers, and administrative staff gathered around, laughing and sharing stories of the ward's progression. Christopher, now able to walk around more freely, stood with his mom, beaming at the joyous atmosphere. Sarah raised a plastic cup. "I propose a toast. No, many toasts. First, to Jennifer, for leading us through the toughest times and showing us what relentless compassion can achieve." Blushing, Jennifer lifted her own cup as the room burst into applause. "Next," Sarah continued, "to Nathan, for using his resources and, more importantly, his heart, to save our ward when we needed it most." Everyone clapped again, and Nathan looked both pleased and humbled. Dr. Peterson stepped forward. "Lastly, to the entire staff and community, we have a bright future, and we owe it to every person who supported the cause, from rummage sale donors to big-time philanthropists." This is only the beginning. They all sipped the bubbly cider, the chatter swelling with warm camaraderie. Jennifer felt tears threaten, but steadied herself, determined to savor this moment without breaking down. She caught Nathan's gaze across the crowd. He raised his cup in a private toast, a gentle smile conveying everything words could not. Later, as the celebration wound down, Jennifer found Christopher and his mother by a window decorated with paper hearts, each heart bearing a child's name. "You're looking really good," Jennifer said softly, her eyes crinkling with delight. Christopher grinned. "I feel good. I still have more treatments, but I'm not scared anymore." His mother's eyes shone with tears. "Thank you," she whispered, voice unsteady. "You and everyone here saved my son's life." Jennifer's throat tightened. This was the real reward, the knowledge that families like Christopher's would continue to find hope and healing. It was worth every struggle, every sleepless night, every moral quandary she had faced. When the small party ended, the staff slowly dispersed, leaving the ward quieter than before. Jennifer escorted Nathan to the lobby, where the glass doors revealed the sky clearing to reveal a rich sunset, pinks and purples blending into a serene twilight. They stepped outside, hand in hand, listening to the rhythmic chirp of crickets. "Want to take a walk by the waterfront?" Nathan asked. "I know a great spot to watch the sunset." She nodded, too moved to speak. They strolled down the path, the hospital behind them, lit from within by the glow of lives being saved and futures being rewritten. Each footstep brought a sense of finality, as though they were closing one chapter to begin another. And yet, there was no sadness, only profound gratitude and anticipation of what lay ahead. Reaching the waterfront, they paused as the last rays of sun flickered on the horizon. Jennifer leaned into Nathan's embrace, feeling the quiet hush of the moment surround them. There, in the gentle lull of evening, she let her tears fall, not of sorrow, but of overwhelming joy and relief. The journey had been arduous, filled with trials, but the outcome was more beautiful than she ever imagined. In that final embrace, with the hospital safe and the children's futures bright, Jennifer closed her eyes. She breathed in the salt-tinged air, her heart brimming with a peace she had never known. And as Nathan's arms tightened around her, she realized they were no longer nurse and billionaire, savior and ward in crisis. They were partners, bound by compassion, forged through adversity, and ready to face whatever new dawn awaited them together. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought of the story. See you in the next video.